the Thinking Tackle podcast.
It isn't as important as it was, you know, but I love it when I go, you know, really sort of, and thinking about it. When we had a walk around the lake the other day, you know, I thought, oh, you know,
you got to moderate that a little bit, haven't you, Lee? You
That's
can't
right,
keep going.
I think you have to
like
find a balance as well, don't you? You know, it's and really in your fishing, in life, you have to, you know, because you know, you got to remember you got a wife indoors, and you got other people want to see a little bit of you. But blimey, I mean, when my wife, I think of how obsessive I was about carp fishing, because one example was when...
Can I just say now, Lee Jackson, welcome to the podcast. We are live now.
Yeah, okay, mate. It's lovely to see you. Lovely to be here as well.
Great.
You know? And now, what I was going to say, I was talking about obsession of carp fishing. You know, one of my, and I cringe when I think about it now. But when my wife was expecting our second daughter, and back then there was a close season for carp fishing, you know, and when she went for her first scan, the date they gave her was June the 16th.
It would be, wouldn't it?
My head immediately said, how selfish. How could, forget that I played a part in it, you know. And,
yeah, you did.
But the obsession of it, you know, I sort of, in them days, I ate, drunk and slept carp fishing, you know. It was always, and if I wasn't on the fishing, I was talking on the phone about fishing, making bait, tying rigs, and reading carp magazines or books and everything. Everything revolved around carp fishing, and it is. You can see why quite a few marriages, I mean, my marriage never broke up because of carp fishing, but you can see why people get, you know, there's quite an high divorce rate, you know, because if your wife or partner was doing the same as what you was doing, you wouldn't stand it, would you? Well, a lot of blokes wouldn't stand it, you know.
But it's not sustainable for anyone to go fishing like that for decade after decade, is it, Lee?
Not really. I think the problem with me, I mean, why I've predominantly been a short session angler, I find long sessions boring. You know, I had a job which enabled me to get away early and fish 3 afternoons into the evening a little bit a week. You know, and so it didn't really interfere with my own life, and at the same time I was getting plenty of fishing in. You know, and I was actually a dustman for. I mean, I had quite a good education at school, but to be honest with you, the problem is all my mates were sort of about 3 or 4 years older than me, and I couldn't wait to sort of, you know, leave school and you know, go in the pub and afford to buy a round of drinks like the rest of them, like, you know, and so I left school as soon as I worked in a clothing warehouse down the Old Kent Road, first of all, and then after, when I first started there was the guy who was the driver. He left, and he went to work on the council as a driver on the dust carts, and he used to pop in now and again. And I mean, my mum always said, "Oh, he's going to be an architect." If you told anyone, "Oh, he's going to have a real posh job and all that," you know, and. Anyway, he came in and saw us one day, and I mean, our hours were sort of 9 till 5, you know, normal day's work, and he about midday, and I can remember saying to him, "Are you finished?" And we was all out on the roof. It's a nice sunny day, eating our lunch and everything. And he come out, and I said, "Are you finished, Cole?" And he said, "Yeah." I thought, it's only 12 o'clock. I said, "Don't mind me asking, how much do you earn?" And he said, "Hang on, I'll show you my wage packet." And he showed me his wage packet, and it was £49 a week, like, which was twice what I was earning, and I still got to sit there. So I said to him, is there any jobs going down there? He said, "I'll find out." He said, "As it happens, the supervisor is a carp angler, so I think you might get a job pretty easy." And I went down the next day and you know, spoke with the supervisor. He sent me for a medical. I always remember the medical. I went for the medical and walked in this room, and this nurse come out and she went, "Yep, you're all right. Start tomorrow." It was a fantastic job for if you was a carp fisherman. You hear people.
Good hours.
Yeah. If task and finish, I mean, people used to call dustmen lazy so-and-sos, but in reality, if your governor said to you, you know, your employer said to you, right, this is your day's work. As soon as you've done that day's work, you can go home. Most of the country would be going home early, wouldn't they? You know,
They would.
Yeah.
It's the most important thing in work, isn't it? Is to be able to have time to be able to do what you want to do, isn't it?
That's
and that
right,
sort of job seemed to work perfectly around
the
that.
The downside of it was an early start, so I was unable. I didn't really do hardly any night apart from the first night of the season or first couple of nights of the season. I very rarely used to do any night fishing back in them days. You know.
But big session, long session carp fishing hadn't really taken off too much around that period,
I think
had it?
Yeah.
Well, still doing the sessions that we do now? Or?
Not for me.
Yeah.
It had for other people.
Had it?
No, I've never been a long session.
No.
Full stop. You know, and my longest sessions is when I go to like France for a week, or I mean, next week I'm off to Cherry Lakes in the Cotswolds in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, we enjoy it down there.
Yeah, I'm gonna have some Monday to Friday there, and it's gonna be great. You know,
excellent.
Just me and the wife.
Lee, so at the start of the show anyway, we normally have a little gift presentation. Hopefully the listeners won't get too bored of listening to this, but we're trying to fill the studio up at the moment. I think I've explained that to you before. Have you got anything nice for us?
I brought a little gift for you, which is something that's quite special to me. You know, for two reasons. One by the person who gave it to me. It was in my Conningbrook days, and a friend of mine, Ian Brownie, he's better known as, gave me this corkscrew, and it actually started life out as an haddock. Because it had two dorsal fins, but I sat there one day on the bank and
changed it into a carp.
And changed it into a carp, and so it's pretty special because of the person who gave it to me. And also, I mean, that cork there, I haven't drank alcohol now since April the 14th, 2013. So that's over 6 years, nearly 6.5 years ago. And that's one of the last bottles of wine I opened.
That's a great gift. We're honoured to have that.
So there you go.
Yeah, well, we can look at that proudly in the studio. It's nice, those handmade sentimental things, aren't they?
That's right,
they're important, and there's a nice memory there with
and
that.
It's bespoke as well, and it's an haddock with only one dorsal fin.
It's a little bit unique as well.
That's right, yeah.
So, Lee, you've so what's going on in your life currently at the moment?
I'm as you know, I run two syndicate lakes. I run Cotton Farm, which I've run for a number of years. It's over near the Dartford Crossing, and it's a lake with a unique atmosphere because it's in the middle of a business park and surrounded by offices and everything. It's landscaped. There's a little red bridge over it and fountains and things like that. But it's a lovely place to fish.
Some big common carp in there, aren't there?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I had a bit of a fish kill on there some years ago, and some of the older fish, suffered, and basically, I've consequently getting members has been a little bit more difficult over the last couple of years because people want to fish for £40 carp, don't they? And as you know, like stocking of lakes is quite expensive. So I've stocked new fish over the last couple of years, which will hopefully grow and everything. But apart from that, the main lake I've been running is jointly running is Darren Tip Lake. And
it was a pleasure to walk around there with you the other day.
Yeah, and which, to be honest, I fished the Tip Lake in the 80s or late 70s up to about 1983, 84, and back then I used to think this is the nicest lake I've ever fished, and I didn't fish it I used to fish the big lake next door to it for most of the time, but the problem is in our early days of carp fishing we're not used to fishing weedy lakes, are we? And I used to glance at the Tip Lake and think, it's too weedy for me. And then one afternoon I just happened to walk down there and saw some fish and just fished for an afternoon on there and caught two. And I thought, well, it's not so bad, and but beautiful lake. And as I say, I fished it for a few years, and I mean it's the original lake on the Darren complex, because in the early days, in like sort of 1970, 71, it wasn't leisure sport angling or anything like that. Then it was All & Co, which is the gravel or the aggregate company that sort of owned the land, and in their guidebook, when it made reference to Darren, it was the lake surrounded by the tipping area has produced carp to £24.
That's where it got its name from.
Yeah,
got the name from that.
That's right. Yeah, and then it all. I mean, I stopped fishing it, and then it got sold by Leisure Sport Angling to another company. And to be honest with you, I was fishing other places as well. Which. And it wasn't until recent years where the guy who owns it now offered me to take it on the syndicate. Me and a guy called Darren Venables, who's a good friend, very good, superb bloke. And
you put some fish in there he put some fish in there about 10 years ago, didn't he?
No, there's a previous. There was fish stocked in it. I mean, there was a few originals left. But to be honest with you, to be fair, I mean, Leisure Sport Angling, they didn't really have any stocking policies. I mean, I think that's really, really important. You got to. Every time you stock a lake, it's you take a chance, because it doesn't matter how good the fish are, how good the reputation of the fish farm where you get them from or wherever. You're still taking a chance, but I think you've got to take that chance, because fairly soon, you haven't got a fishery. Every year fish die.
We can live in a bit of a sentimental world if we're not careful, can't we?
Then all of a sudden, you haven't got a fishery, and you haven't got people wanting to join the place, which is what's happened with Cotton Farm. When the bigger fish died, the bigger fish died, people, don't want to fish there anymore. They just go off and fish somewhere else.
But the Tipley looks like it's had a bit of a revival now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it has. Yeah, I mean, it has. I mean, myself and Darren have made quite a few improvements over there. We've got a good bunch of syndicate members as well, and it's gone from having no waiting list to there's 150 odd people on the waiting list, gagging for a ticket. And
what can people expect to fish for in there at the moment?
There's probably around about 7 fish over £40. The biggest one is one called the Major. It's a common, and its biggest weight ever is £58. So that's obviously a good fish. And there's another one in there called the Box that's been over £50 a couple of times. But the £40, some of them are sort of 47, things like that. So it's a good head of fish, real good head of 30s as well, and they're lovely looking fish. They're predominantly a lot of them are German strain, like little dinks, and because of the clear weedy water, they all darken off, and they
the margins there look fantastic.
Yeah.
When we were walking around there the other day, I saw one of those bigger one of those fish that was one of those bigger ones, Lee. Got a good clear look at that, one of those German ones.
But they're clever old fish.
You can see that.
They're not. The thing is, when you've got smaller water, the fish are a little bit more aware of being fished for, and. So, I mean, when I first started fishing it again, after fishing it years ago, which was 2016, I used to drive in the car park, think, there's a few here, I'd sink and everything. But then Darren, who I run it with, he says to me, it fishes better, Lee, when there's more people on here, because it keeps the fish moving about. And he's dead right, because if you're fishing it and there's only 1 or 2 of you on there, it's a lot harder to get a bite.
So if you're fishing that lake on your own, what would you do? Would you plan on sticking in one swim, or dare I say preempt where fish are going to move to, which is always a bit.
That is it. Yeah, I would sort of. I wouldn't necessarily set up on the fish. I might set up on it. I mean, I might cast me if I know where there is fish. I might cast a couple of rods out there with as least disturbance as possible. But most of the time, I would say I would preempt. I mean, I do a Wednesday night, so most of the time, and it's not a good water for night bites, really. But there's only seems to be certain swims where you get night bites. So I tend to set myself up in one of those swims where I got a chance of a bite of the night, because I'm always disappointed when I wake up in the morning and I haven't had a bite, And but the reality is, I'm approaching the best time, daytime, But you can do it. You can fish all night, and the baits have been in there all night and everything. Or it's at 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, and off it goes. And the fish do shift around a little bit,
It struck me as a sort of lake where you wouldn't necessarily have much of a hit on there as well.
I don't know. Some guys do have. Yeah. I mean,
You were saying that you've had two fish. You've had a few two fish captures on there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Because of the nature of the fishing, isn't it? On there, it seems very intimate, and you can't. It's hard to conceal anything as well in there. Isn't it?
Yeah. That's right. I mean, because of the clear water and everything, and it's not. I mean, and I think a lot of the time it's just casting out a lead, and they're aware of being fished for. I mean, prime example was the week before last. I went down to see a friend of mine, or just before I went off to Medine, and I'm stood there, and there was fish bubbling off the point of this island. In the same swimmer we spoke to him. I said, "Haven't you got one over there, Rod?" He said, "No, I'm going to put one over there in a minute." They're bubbling like mad, and he cast only a light lead as well. He cast one rod over there, just one cast. And he stayed there all night, all the next day, and didn't see another one bubble in that spot. Immediately they knew they was.
Do you know how the guy that we saw? Do you know how he got on in the end?
I don't think he caught anything.
Didn't he?
No, I think he. Yeah.
They were edgy. You could see that.
Yeah, I mean, I went down there again a couple of days later, and there was in that same swim, and this guy was having to pack up. He'd been there all night but they was in that swim big style. And bubbling all around the place as well, including really close in, and he was just couldn't get a bite. Yeah. The problem is that when you're fishing lakes like that, weedy lakes, sometimes your presentation ain't right, is it? You can have a bit of silkweed on your, marshing your bait, or something's happened to it, or they've sort of,
anything, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You mentioned Nadine, actually. Is that Nadine, the World Carp Classic? So
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
How did all that go?
We probably had the most of. I mean, I've fished Medine for quite a few years now in the World Carp Classic and Bolsena initially when they had it on there, and a lake in the Czech Republic. And I always look forward to that event. And in particular, to me, Medine is the spiritual home of the World Carp Classic. And I know the lake fairly well, but we can never get into the thing that we know it all. And so it's very important what peg you draw, and I always, when we have the peg draw, you always know if you've got a chance of. A lot of times you think we're camping for a week, but you hope, or say 5 days and 5 nights, but you hope that you always hope a miracle will happen, you get a bite, but. Has
that ever happened so far on there then? I mean,
to be honest, I think I fished with. I mean, most of the time, I had Tim Paisley as my partner.
Because you won that in
2017.
So, have you got a picture? 2017.
Yeah, let me see what I've got.
That was a pretty proud moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was absolutely fantastic. I mean, that's a prime example. I mean, myself and Tim had fished together in it a number of times, and when we had the draw in 2017, we knew we'd had. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, and well, we knew we had a swim where we had a chance of a bite, and it was sort of meant to be really as well with that match, because it's decided, the winners decided on the pair or three, you can have 3 anglers that catches the biggest 3 fish, the collective weight that's added together, the top 3 fish they catch. So you could get a pair catch, they never do, but you could catch a pair catch 20 fish, and but their top 3 out of them 20 is not as big as someone who's just got 3, and
you think that's the fairest format you can do?
I think it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant format, because it keeps you interested right to the end. I'll give you a prime example, because what happened in 2017, the match started on the Monday afternoon, and to be honest with you, especially if you had to take all your gear across to an island or something, it's and you've got two old men doing it. I was 60 years old at the time, and Tim's 80 years old, and you've got to get all your gear set up. And
Tim, bless him, is he going to be the oldest all-time winner, do you think? Well,
possibly.
I mean, that's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, possibly, yeah. I mean, when we stood up on the stage at the start of it, the collective age between the two of us was 140 years,
Brilliant.
And but anyway,
there's a bit of experience there, though, Lee.
Yeah, but in that session, I mean, it started on Monday. You can more or less right off Monday, because the carp themselves are suffering with shell shock. Even though it's a big lake, I mean, the Monday always fishes worst, Monday night. So you sort the baits out. It's all boating, boating baits out, which is a lot more difficult than fishing from the bank. And so Tuesday we got the baits out where we thought that was to go, and then it started raining and the wind really got up on Tuesday afternoon at 4:00. It rained solidly for 26 hours, and the wind was howling for that time as well, 26 hours. And so it's a Wednesday, and Wednesday around about 5-6 o'clock in the afternoon, it calmed down, and I was on my first bite. I was out in front of the rods because you get these great big drifting weed beds, and I was out in front of me rods. I turned my bite alarms off and was pulling weed off my line and everything. And Benji, who was behind my rods, he said, "You got a bite?" And I said, "No, it must be me." He said, "You got a bite?" And that was our first fish. In English terms, it weighed 41 pounds. And so that put us on the scoreboard. I caught one that was Wednesday. I caught one on Thursday, and that was in English terms 56 pound, which actually turned out to be the biggest fish of the competition that year. But then going into the last day, Friday, we only had 2 fish on the scoreboard, and we was nowhere. We was probably down in about 10th, 12th place or something like that. And then on the Friday evening of the last night, I had a bite, and I landed one 55 pound. So on the scoreboard we got a 56, a 55 and a 41, and we thought that would put us in the lead, and we had a little WhatsApp group going on the lake, and all the other lads would go, come on Tim and Lee, bring it home for England or all that, and this is a complete tongue-in-cheek statement. I said, could do with upping our third fish a little bit, like the 41 pounder. Let me have my cup of tea and I'll sort it out. And that was a completely off the cuff, blasé statement. And 3 o'clock in the morning, bear in mind it ends at 8 o'clock in the morning, I had one at 47. Had I not had that 47, we've been in second place by 0.2 of a kilo.
Wow.
So it's meant to be,
It was meant to be.
But this year it was... it's a bit disappointing. I mean, a bit disappointing in the swim, which really comfortable swim, apart from the rocks at the front, because we had, most of the time we've been out on the way off island somewhere, or and there's bits of the bank on Medine, which though they're attached to the mainland, you can't get to them by vehicle, so you have to, your gear has to be taken over by boat and everything. So we're thankful that we had a comfortable swim. We spent the 5 days and 5 nights open.
And singing.
And singing, yeah. But that's Medine. I mean, the 2 lads, Tim's last year. I mean, every year he'd say, in 2017, this is the last year I'm doing it, Jacko. And but consequently, we won it in 2017, and so he felt forced to go back in 2018 to defend our title. And
is this definitely his last time now?
I think so, yeah. I mean, 2018 we had a crap draw. We knew we was going to be camping for the week, and he told me there and then. He said, we actually said to me, because the World War I, it was the 100th anniversary, so that ended. It ended in that part of France, and
there's a lot of trenches around there and stuff as well, aren't there?
Oh,
they've got a bit of.
Still, nowadays they find unexploded bombs and shells and things like that, mortar shells. And but I remember Tim's words were, the First World War ended in this area 100 years ago, he said, so I think it's right. He said, this is my last time I'm coming to this. He said, you ain't going to talk to me into it anymore. I mean, most of the time he talked himself into it, but yeah. But and that was it, so it was nice for me this year to have two great blokes, and Darren Venables and John Little as partners, because it was nice. They'd never fished it before, and we had an helper guy who's one of my best friends, Paul Conyers, and which made a change for me not to have to do any cooking.
Right.
And he was
that's always handy.
And he was a brilliant chef, and yeah, but I think the others was a little bit disappointed that we didn't catch carp, but they enjoyed. But that's the nature of the beast. I mean, at Medine, 2/3 of the people, it's something like 106 teams in it, if you like, or pairs or triples or whatever you like to call them. And and 2/3 of them are blank, won't catch a carp, you know.
How does that compare to the World Championships? There's a World Championship as well, isn't there? Is that the same format or?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's a Carp Angling World Championship.
Just pull the mic up.
Yeah, there's Carp Angling World Championship, which is sort of is recognised by, I say, sort of proper carp anglers. But that's not necessary every year. They used to have it quite regular, and myself and Ian Chilcott, Chile, was fortunate enough to win it on the St Lawrence River in 2011, I think. And I don't think there's been a Carp Angling World Championship since.
Right.
But you've got this World Championship that's always, attached to FIPS and things like that. And dare I say, proper carp, I won't say proper carp anglers, that's wrong. I don't know the terminology to use. Joe Public carp angler doesn't even read anything about the World Carp Championships. It's a lot stricter rules and everything. And I mean, Rob Hughes, I think, does a good job of managing it, but it's not recognised that much by the ordinary carp angler.
Right. Just moving on. So you've always had a bit of an association with these like love affairs with certain carp, and I always remember the school pools, How long did it take you to actually land that one, Lee? I know that went on for a few years.
To be honest with you, I've always, when you say love affairs, it was a self-inflicted obsession, because I've always carp fished right from the very first time I started carp fishing in 1970. I've always fished to catch as many carp as I can, and hope that a few big ones come along the way. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And I enjoy catching carp, and I'm never disappointed at catching a carp. But when you've got to go back in time and realise what the size of carp were at this time. I mean, probably the school pool at Faversham was the only lake in Kent, I think, that had 2 30-pound carp in it. And the thing is with She, it got named She around about 1971 by a guy called Andy Spreadbury, who then went on to have an obsession, like myself, of catching it. And he wrote a brilliant chapter in the BCSG book, BCSG mag. And because it was one of the most sought after fish in the lake to catch, but also one of the easiest fish in the lake to catch.
Right.
Obviously, I want to catch it.
Yep.
But it seems with me, the moment it becomes an obsession, it then becomes hard. Because I caught everything but. And I caught what was at one time Kent Record Common 3710, and which was a really sought after carp, but it's but I just couldn't catch She. And then when I did, and I suppose it probably took me about 5 years. Bear in mind I'd flit around with my fish.
Yep.
I wouldn't actually concentrate solely on one water, and I'd go and fish other places as well. But it took me a while, and when I caught it, I just went down there for.
Let's look at a picture, Tobe, of She.
I love this one.
Lovely scaly fish, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Real famous fish. It's on the front cover of Kerry Maddox's Carp Feeder
That's right.
book,
That's right.
The first edition of it, anyway.
Yeah.
And
what a picture this one is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, well, that's about the 4th time I caught it. That's not when I caught it. That's the first time I caught it. I went down there for a short session, and I had a 5-fish catch on that morning. I think the 3rd fish I caught was She. I weighed it, and it was I think it was about 36.5 pounds, something like that at the time. And because all my main fishing mates in that area anyway, they was off in France fishing, I had a sudden sort of thing come over me. I thought, do you know what, I'm going to put this fish back without a photograph. And I weighed it 36 pounds something, and just because I used to like the fishing on there, and if I'd have taken a photograph of it, I would have lost interest in the lake, But I didn't want to lose interest in the lake, so I liked it. And so by putting it back with without taking a picture, I'd leave myself something to go back for. And
Blimey.
and there was some young lad standing, around about 14 years old, 14, 15-year-old, and he looks at me. Are you going to take a picture of it? I said, no. And I must admit, about an hour later, I questioned my sanity. But I went on to catch it 3 more times after that.
But even now that's a really big fish. To not take a picture is...
it is historic carp, and then... but I've always, like in my daydreaming days, wanted to catch the biggest carp in the country. But to be honest with you, because of my short session fishing, it wasn't viable for me to travel to Raysbury and do a short session at Raysbury and come back home again or whatever.
Yeah.
I did fish some of the then circuit waters, like I fished Longfield a couple of times and everything,
But School Pool was quite convenient, and that was flittering between. We'll get on to some other stuff actually, because we were saying where I wanted to start you actually, Lee. Sorry, just butting in there was around 1980, early 80s, because you mentioned to me that you were actually on the Ashley Pool Syndicate. For a few years. So around that sort of time, you were part of the Kent carp fishing scene, and I think it was quite well recognised then that Kent anglers had a bit more about them. They were a little bit in front, weren't they? Why do you think that was?
I think it basically was because when you look at the waters of old, like Brooklands Lake, Dartford, Alton Kirby, Sutton Complex, where Dartford's situated, or that area is situated, it's quite easy for people. I went. My first place I ever went fishing, carp fishing, was Alton Kirby, and because I could get a train from Deptford and be there in half an hour, and a lot of lads from South East London. So as well as the local people to Dartford, it was easy for people who lived in South East London to get to as well. And I think, and when you look at all the innovations like the air rigs and high protein or highly nutritional baits, HMB baits, all the experimentation originated in Kent, didn't it, really? And I think there was a lot of innovative anglers around in Kent at that particular time. And when those innovative people like Peter Springate. Peter Springate's a tremendous angler, and but he learned a lot of what he learned on the Dartmouth complex, and so did people like Kevin Maddox and other people that went on to be sort of household names in carp fishing.
And where did you become associated? How did you become part of the scene?
Just turning up and fishing, I suppose. I think there's.
But was there a certain group of people that you kind of just sort of migrated towards because?
No, not necessarily. I think you get to. I've always wanted to learn, and if I've always tried to get on with people as well, and.
So you find that people can be a little bit more open with you because of your character.
That's right. Yeah, and carp fishing was very secretive in the early days, and so people used to tell you nothing, But suddenly, I think what happens sometimes, you get to a point in your carp fishing where you can catch carp. You get a little bit more confident that you got experience there and everything, and you do catch carp, and you start getting noticed. And it's all about confidence, isn't it? Fishing at the end of the day, like a lot of things, if you're confident you're going to catch a carp, you'll catch one. If there's a little doubt, and there's always going to be people who shine above the others, It's and that's like just an instinctive thing, isn't it? And I think so. In Kent, we were flitting about ideas between each other and everything. He was picking up regularly, picking up my ideas. In actual fact, when I first started working for the tackle box, that worked against me because the original tackle box was at Sutton, and that was right in the middle of the hotbed of carp fishing. Sutton Lakes, Dartmouth Complex, Alton Kirby, Dartford Lakes, and some of the customers that used to come in was good anglers. You couldn't help being influenced by them sometimes, and but it actually mucked up my fishing for a little bit.
Why was that?
Well, because I'd see a rig or something, or someone tell me about such and such a bait, and I'd change to it, you know. It was after a while I thought, hang on, I've got to forget all, you know, they're good ideas, but carry on what I'm doing, you know.
That's the secret, Lee, isn't it? A little bit as well.
Yeah, and I think, and you know, with carp fishing, you know, olden days or present days, you can't explain sometimes why you reel in a fishing rod and think, right, I'll cast it over there, you know. Something tells you, something, you know, some power within tells you to cast over there. That's a good spot, you know. And yeah, it doesn't matter, you know. But
yeah. So around that period, early '80s, so you were quite advanced, would you say, for that sort of period? And what
I think a lot of Kent anglers were,
yeah,
and sort of, you know, you know, and Essex, some Essex anglers as well. What
made you go further afield and try and fish Ashley Pool, and how did that all come about?
Blimey, I mean, Ashley Pool was very. I mean, I was a regional organiser for the British Carp Studies Group then as well, and Peter Moen used to run the Ashley Syndicate, and I think it was only 10 members, and I got offered a chance to join it. I mean, there's a lot of history on. Other than Redmire, probably Ashley Pool was the next best.
Yeah, it was like the sister lake, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, and so I joined Ashley Pool and offered a chance to join Ashley Pool. That was in 1982. Unfortunately, because my then wife, she had her first baby then, and because my wife was in and out of hospital, you know, quite regularly, you know, she had problems after birth. I only actually got to fish it twice. The first time you fish somewhere like Ashley, bear in mind I hadn't fished a weedy lake really before that, you know. It's a tiny little lake, and you just can't believe how weedy it is, like pads and cabbages under the water, and because it's so small, I couldn't sit still. I mean, the water was crystal clear, and I spent all my time moving around. And the Ashley carp, like they are in a lot of these small lakes, are quite clever. Yeah, they have the habit of moving in when you've moved out, you know. Do
you think that's a true representation of bigger lakes as well, when you see carp behaving in smaller lakes like that?
Yeah, I think carp in bigger lakes are much easier to catch, you know, because they can get out of the way, and but when you've got a small lake, like a small environment, and they're very aware of being fished for. I mean, I think some of the hardest carp in the country to catch, you know, obviously the hardest carp are in lakes where there's hardly any of them in. But like for a water that's well stocked, I think one of the hardest lakes in the country is Sutton. You know, the CMEX Sutton, Lake 2 Sutton, or whatever you like to call it, the old leisure sport Sutton. You know, you can't night fish it. I think you have to unchain, I think, 2 gates to get onto the lake. And I think as soon as the carp hear that jangle,
it's well known for that, wasn't it?
They're on guard. You know, they know they're going to be fished for. And
yeah, I've observed. A friend's got a lake actually with it's about an acre and 3/4, and he's got 45 carp in there. We better not get into the stock too much on this podcast.
Yeah.
But you know, so there's a lot of fish in that lake for the size of it. And I went over there one winter a few years ago. And my friend said to me, go round onto the other side and you'll see every single fish in the lake. So I go out there, climb up the tree, and they're all swimming around in a group, and and this was in February, it was freezing cold, and they were just moving up and down, and they were moving quite quickly. And I said, cracky, are they always like that? And he said, no, that's what they do when anyone puts a line in the water. Yeah. They all group up together, and they just stay in a pack.
Yeah.
And that's what you're kind of up against. It's like what you're getting on about Darrenth, isn't it? You kind of do need some anglers on the lake at times to try and...
I mean, the prime example was when I done a thing with Terry Earn for Sky TV on... and the Sky people wanted to pick a little day ticket where everyone could go, you know. And I lived at Chatham in Kent at the time. We had this Capstan Country Park around the corner from where we lived, which I walked around it, you know, taking the kids around it a number of times, but never actually carp fished it. And... I said to Terry, there's a little day ticket walk around the corner from us. It's got from where I live. It's got some nice carp in it, and so I'm told. So we've done it with Sky TV. Well, when we got there, it's only the lake is actually a pond liner. You know, it's only 2 acres at most. And there was one guy. You can't fish either end of it, but there's guys on one bank, you know, casting out method feeder. Someone was always disturbing the fish, like, you know, disturbing the water. And so myself and Terry went on the opposite bank, fishing like, quite sort of discreetly and everything. And we had a fantastic day. We caught a load of fish up to about 27 pound, and there was beautiful carp. And I said to Terry, this was approaching winter time, and I said to Terry, I'm going to come back here and start fishing this place. I went back there the following week just for a short session, and had the lake to myself, no one else there. Consequently, I went in the same swim that we fished the week before for the Sky TV, and cast out, caught one straight away. I couldn't get another bite.
Yeah.
Just couldn't buy a bite after that, They just got out of the way. They kept getting out of the way.
Yeah, it's something to bear in mind when you're fishing small waters, for sure. So Ashley, I mean, so you only done 2 sessions. Was that ever a regret of yours to not be able to go on and catch some fish out of there?
I think other places come along, didn't they? It was only the next year when, 1982, I only managed to get to Ashley Pool on 2 occasions, and then and never caught anything. I come close, and I was lucky enough to see one of the other Ashley Pool members catch his first carp in 2 years out there. It was Umpy, which was one of the 2 big ones in there, and but I was also fishing like a lake in Essex called Kennington's at Aveley, and because there was a big carp in there that I think a picture of it appeared in Rob Bailey's first book with Phil Harper holding it, and.
The tunnel, we talked about that the other day.
Yeah, the tunnel was
lovely picture as well.
The chapter was called,
Iconic.
and I actually hooked that fish on a lump of flake, but hook pulled on it, and but it was a lovely looking carp, around about 38, maybe 40 pound. So I got a little bit of an obsession with. I didn't rejoin Ashley because it was just too far away for me to fish, how I'd like to fish, and but then the tunnel. I was fishing the tunnel, and so I lost the big one in there. And the following close season, which would be now not 1983, I was down there most afternoons, baiting up and things like that in readiness for the start of the season. And then all of a sudden, the club lost the fishing rights, and I was devastated, And
you never know what really happened to the fish after that.
No, I've got a feeling. I don't know what happened to the big one in there, but there was another fish that they call Peanut. I got idea that ended up in the Big Grange.
What, an angler moved it?
Probably, yeah. Well, yeah.
Ended up in the Big Grange.
Yeah.
Just ended up there.
Yeah. I mean, so it's. I think that's what I was told. It was in there. It was in there and there. How it got there, I don't know. But then again, if no one is allowed to fish the lake, I don't think there's actually anything wrong in that, really, is
right.
it? It's
funny place, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It seemed like a little bit of a flash in the pan, but I always remember what was that in Foxpool or one of Rob's, maybe Tiger Bay actually.
Yeah,
and
Tiger Bay. Yeah.
If anyone wants to hear about Phil's story, just read that chapter. It catches your imagination a bit. That.
Yeah.
But there was another lake that came onto the horizon.
Immediately after that.
Immediately. What I want to know where this place is, the Hearts Club Lake, as everyone called it at the time. You had no idea, really, what that lake contained.
No, what happened when following on from the tunnel, when the tunnel they lost the fishing on the Tunnel Angling Club, I was devastated. And the guy I'd met in the previous winter on South Weald, Alan Partridge, he became really good friends with him, and he said to me, "We've all joined a lake in the Colne Valley called Arrow." Springwood was the proper name. Springwell was the proper name of the lake, and so I thought, he said, "Don't really know what's in there." He said, "I went there twice as a guest last year, and the bloke who took me as a guest caught 2 24-pounders, but we really don't know what's in there. But it's supposed to have some big carp in it." And so I thought, I'll join it as well. And I always remember ringing up the club secretary, and I lived at Gravesend in Kent at the time, and rung up the club secretary, Emery Peplow, I think his name was, and I said, "I'm interested in joining the fishing club." And he said, "Where do you live?" I said, "I live in Gravesend in Kent." He said, "Oh, it's a long way to come, boy, isn't it?" And I said to him, "Well, I work up," it was a little white lie. I said, "Well, predominantly fish for bream. You was never a carp angler if you was trying to get in the club."
They always seem to like that one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we fell for it. And And I said, I'd be interested in fishing for the bream in there, and then I'll work over that, which was a complete lie as well. I work over that as well, so over that way as well. So I'd like to go after work. And he said, "Okay, boy," he said, "send me your £8 and your £2 joining fee." I thought extortionate, like
expensive, yeah.
And I joined it, and this was 3 or 4 days before June the 16th, and the first time I saw Arrow was on June the 15th. I had a walk around. You wasn't allowed to night fish it.
But what did you think when you first? I think Harrow is one of the most picturesque lakes I've ever walked around.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful lake, you know. But what I thought about it was a little bit mixed. On June the 15th, when I walked round it, there was a seagull walking on the lake, 80 yards out, you know. And I thought, obviously, it's walking on top of a bar, you know, but you couldn't see the bar. And
because it was quite well known for the amount of gravel bars.
Bars, yeah. And then on the other side, then the others, all the other lads was Essex lads, you know, Essex friends, and they turned up as well. And
so who were you with? Who were the anglers that you
it was Jimmy Burns, was a good mate. All of them were good mates. Alan Partridge, who I mentioned already, Pete Ridley, and Kevin Ellis, who went on to catch the big carp out of Cassim a few years later. And but I could always remember Kevin turning up. He brought a rod down with him with this brand, you know, real shiny new lead weight on the end of it, and he had a little cast to have a little feel about. He had one cast with his lead. It got snagged up, and it come back looked like a lump of shrapnel. That's how severe the bars were. Because there was no weed in them days. And anyway, we all went up the fisheries pub for the evening, which was traditional in that area, and went back to the lake.
Still not. I mean, were you excited about what the potential was?
Yeah. I mean, prior to that, I used to flit around and fish different lakes for a change and everything, and exciting what the potential was. And anyway, we got back from the pub, had a little sleep in our cars for a little while, and then went on the lake. And I chose a swim. We called it the stick swim because there was a stick, which was obviously a branch of a tree that had blown over in the close season, probably around about 70 yards out, and it became lodged on the top of this bar. And I thought, well, that's a good point to put a fair bit of bait on and fish around with the other rods. It's only 2 rods, and I think little Peter caught one in the morning. I think it's just over £20, and at 1 o'clock in the morning.
You were all fishing at the same end of the lake, or spread out a little bit?
Yeah, it was quite a big lake, as you know, and it was spread out quite a bit, but all in the same section of the lake, and around about 1 o'clock in the morning, I had tufted ducks diving on my bait, and also I had a bite, and obviously I thought it was one of these tufties, and I struck it, and the water beyond the bar erupted, you know, and the water was pea soup green colour there back then, so you couldn't see actually what the size of the fish he was playing and everything, and landed it, and it was this was 1983, and on the scales it went 40 £40 4 ounces, I think it was.
Wow. Toby put it up. It's an iconic picture.
Yeah.
Was that on was this picture on the cover of your Legends book? I've seen it somewhere.
I think it was. Yeah.
But a £40 carp in 1983, and to not even know that it was in. I mean, that was monumental. Then
it was
wasn't
unbelievable. I mean, because I can remember after we took the photographs and returned the fish. Me and Jimmy Burns,
check this picture out. Look at that.
Standing there, and it brings that memory. Look at the curly hair as well.
I know. Yeah.
And I can remember. Me and Jim sitting there chatting, and Jim always used to gesture with his arms, and he said, "This place could have 50 pounders in it. You never know, but you never knew. You didn't know, because we didn't. You don't know what you don't know."
I like the picture when you're all together, when you're all around it.
Yeah.
Because you look completely amazed when you're holding that fish. You just look like you're in a complete daze. Everybody, I mean, no one's seen a carp. I mean, what's the biggest carp you saw up until that point, Lee?
I don't really know, to be honest with you. Possibly, I mean, she was about before. I really can't remember. But I think possibly, probably a tip lake fish of around about. I mean, before I went onto there, I think my biggest carp was 29 something. That was from the tip lake, and So it was possibly that one, you know. There's a couple of, back then there was a few, you know, bigger ones like, you know, quite well-known fish in the tip lake. But it would have only been around about 30 pounds, you know.
And yeah, I mean, it was huge, absolutely huge.
Can I check this picture on as well?
Yeah, go on. Yeah,
look at that one.
Yeah, with a little help from our friends.
Who's in that picture, Lee?
Well, that's
right,
it.
That's on the left here. That's Kevin Ellis with the white in the white. Jimmy Burns towering above with the glasses on. To the right and behind is little Peter Ridley, and to the right is Alan Partridge. But we was all of us blown away. You know, we went on to have some good times on that lake.
I know. Yeah, I read that chapter in Tiger Bay.
Yeah.
And how many 40-pound carp, Lee, would you guess might have been in the UK at that time?
I really don't know. I think there was Basil in the North Lake, I think, at Yateley. I think there was another fish in the lakes, Tri Lakes, next door to Yateley. That was a 40-pound, or certainly up to 30. Do you know, I can't really remember.
But for our listeners, it was a pretty rare occurrence, wasn't it?
It was a rare occurrence, yeah.
And then, like you said, then after that, I mean, it's like, well, surely you haven't caught the biggest carp in the lake on your first
That's right. You don't
cast.
Think that's right. You don't think you have, like, you know. It's but it turned out it was the biggest carp in the lake. We think at the time, albeit I don't know if it had actually been caught at 40 pound before.
Do you know how many times it was caught previously to that?
Well, to be honest with you, the locals didn't like us very much, so we never really used to speak to them a great deal. I can understand why. You know, all of a sudden this mob of blokes from Essex and Kent have turned up there on their doorstep, and some fellas caught a 40-pounder, and all of a sudden everyone wants to join the club.
Of course they do.
So they've all their fishing to themselves for a number of years, and all of a sudden, you know. But I know of it. I know of it getting caught on one occasion before, you know, because a guy at one of the conferences he showed me a picture of it where he caught it, you know. But many other times it's been caught, I don't know, you know.
But then that caught the attention of quite a few people then.
Yeah, it did. I mean,
even in those days where word would probably be a little bit slower to get out, it travelled around the grapevine.
I mean, they had a no publicity rule on the lake, and
for a long time, wasn't it?
Yeah, for a long while they had a no publicity lake, and I didn't actually personally publicise it. But what happened is there's a little tackle shop up the road in Rickmansworth, and like the Anglers Mail or Angling Times used to ring up like tackle shops. Oh, have you heard of anything getting caught today from your, you know? And obviously someone had been up there from Arrow, and I said, oh, some guys caught a 40 pounds because it was reported the following week in the Anglers Mail or Anglers Times, and I got in trouble about that. But I didn't, you know, give them that information. And yeah.
Did you give them the full story?
No, I didn't give them any story to anyone.
Right.
You know, they published it on their own back, you know, and it was only a small snippet, you know, this 40 pound 4-ounce carp's been caught from, I think it named the lake as well, yeah.
Did it?
Yeah, so...
and what about writing in Rob's book? Was that...
Well, that was I mean, when Rob decided to write the book Tiger Bay, he asked me to do a guest chapter, and he said, but for the reason... I mean, the lake was called Springwell Lake. I mean, the club was called North Arrow Waltonians Angling Club. We used to always call the lake Arrow, and... with an H, by the way, I can't pronounce my H. I come from South East London, and I've kind of lost my gist of what I was going to say, but
yeah. So yeah, you the lake was called Harrow,
yeah,
and Harrow Waltonians, and you were. So sorry, just getting back to it as well. That was a day water as well, wasn't it? So
yeah, that's right,
it shouldn't have. It's quite a difficult place to...
Yeah, I think like the grapevine is such in carp fishing, the word spread. You know, word spread that it was about this fish getting caught. I mean, it amazes me nowadays how the grapevine works, you know. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, well, I was fishing one lake in Kent where if I had a bite, it was on Facebook before it even landed.
Right, yeah.
By someone on the other bank. You know? But...
and sorry, with Rob's thing as well?
With Rob's book, I mean, we wrote the... that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
He asked us to do a chapter, and he said for the purpose of the book, he'd asked myself and Martin Locke to write a chapter, guest chapter, and he's going to call it Springwood, which is a completely fictitious name, you know. Anyway, when the book Tiger Bay came out, I mean, Rob wasn't very well liked on the lake by some people, and it was mainly jealousy because he was ever successful. He did put a few strokes as well, but it was predominantly jealousy with what he caught. And so they was gunning for him. The committee was there gunning for him. And so when he brought out Tiger Bay, they had all the ammunition they had. You know, they banned him from life for life. And that's to make an example of myself and Martin Locke as well, and we both got a 3-month ban. But I always think about it though. If we had taken that to a solicitor and say, look, tell us how we broke this rule, we haven't, because we called it but you just accept it, and get a slap on the wrist, and at least we can fish it again where Rob couldn't.
And you carried on fishing there until what, mid-90s?
Yeah.
And I mean, Harrow then went on to become, I mean, I think maybe early 2000s. I mean, it was producing. I would have said it was probably the best big fish
probably the
lake.
Best lake in the country.
So those fish that you were catching then, and at that period they were high 20s.
Yeah,
but they were right on the.
That first year in 1983. I mean, I caught the 40-pounder, and out of us little group we fished together. The little Peter caught 2 29-pounders, and I very nearly dropped out of it after that, because I thought, well, plus the fact it was before the M25 was built, so getting there was quite difficult if you lived in Kent. It took a long while. And I very nearly, and I thought to myself, well, I caught that 40-pound, I don't really want to catch it again. I can catch 29-pounders out of the Tip Lake at Darrenth, which I was fishing at the time. I very, very nearly didn't rejoin it, and it was only the fact that it was only £8, still £8, didn't have to pay the joining fee the second year. That I rejoined it, and I'm glad I did, because I didn't fish it at all the following year until September, and that's when I sort of met up with Rob Malin, who was still a member then, but at that point he hadn't written Tiger Bay, and that winter, and it was really apparent how much those fish stacked on the weight for winter, which were all the 29 pound, any 29, 28 pound fish and all that, they all moved up to about 34. 35 pound even, so it's...
And was that a pattern that they continue to follow?
I think so, every year. I think they do it on a lot of lakes, even now.
We're just not so used to it now, are we? Because we can fish in the spring, and we don't know what the potential is.
No, that's right. No, I think they used to. I mean, I think it's a well-known fact that fish used to pack on the weight in readiness for winter. People used to say, but I don't know. Perhaps it was,
Yeah. So some of those other fish in there that were probably low 30s, they went on to, was it Dearmans?
Yeah, Dearmans. I mean, the biggest fish in the lake which weren't about. I don't remember that in the early days, that fish, but there was Dearmans. Dearmans mate. I mean, Dearmans mate made £60 on one occasion. There was another fish it's only died recently called Tyson, but I caught that in September of 1984, and I always remember it. I was.
I wonder why it was called Tyson.
Well, I'll tell you why it was caught, because I caught that in 1984. It was the middle of the afternoon, the time when you're not expecting a bite, and I had a bite 2 o'clock in the afternoon, bright sunny afternoon, and I played this fish for 55 minutes without even seeing it. And at one stage I was convinced it was foul hooked. And my back was aching and everything, and I had enough of it. But after 55 minutes, I had enough of it, and I thought, as soon as it comes in front of me, I'm going to. It's coming in on the bank by hook or by crook, or the line's going to break or something. And it got in front of me. I still hadn't seen it all the time. All during that fight, I hadn't seen it, and I threw the rod behind me, grabbed the line, and hand lined it up, and pulled it into the landing net. And I was really surprised it was hooked in the mouth. And I remember it weighed £28 something then, and I remember writing in my diary, I called it Rocky, after the Rocky films and everything, and that's to this day, that's still the hardest fighting carp I've ever hooked.
So did the name come from you then?
Tyson did. No, the following year, Rob Malin caught it. It had a similar. Everyone who hooked that fish, they had a battle with it.
Did they?
And I think I might have hooked it on 1 or 2 other occasions as well during my arrow time, and but lost it, and I've seen it on a bite. My mate Alan Smith, bless him, because he died a few years ago. Alan, we was on a swim called the Lawn, and there was 2 guys, both had marker floats up, doubled it up in the swim, about 70 yards down the bank, and on the bite, Tyson as it later become known, wipes out both of their marker floats, just on the bite,
Wow.
And Rob Mayling caught it, say, in 1984, and he renamed it Tyson. Yeah.
Went up to 50. Did it get up to 50?
There or
around that sort of weight.
So yeah.
Do you want to talk about? That's a classic carp. That is. Do you want to talk about any of the other fish that were in there? Because
chopped dorsal.
Chopped dorsal. We got a picture of chopped dorsal.
I've got a picture of chopped dorsal.
Yeah, I think got a picture of chopped dorsal.
Yeah, I think we'd all like to catch chopped dorsal.
Yeah, chopped dorsal was, it's just, it was the biggest one in the lake, and I think the average area caught, I think my mate Paul Ford caught it at around about 53 pound.
There it is.
But it was always, I actually caught that one 4 times. I caught it twice in the earlier years at 28 and 29 pound, and twice in latter years at 46 and 47.
They all look like bruisers, don't they, Lee?
Yeah,
those
that fish also very, very much reminds me of shoulders out of Alton.
Yeah,
and it wouldn't surprise me if they weren't out the same, same come from the same source. Those two fish, but no, it was a special carp that was chopped dorsal.
What about the actual fishing on there? I mean, what did you notice about the behaviours of those fish? Obviously, not being allowed on the lake at night, that must have played a part.
I mean, it was. I mean, especially in the. Obviously, it's like a lot of these night fishing waters. In the summertime, if you was normally allowed on there about 4 o'clock in the morning, and your best chance was up to about 9 o'clock in the morning, depending on weather, and then again in the evening. So they really. They did get caught during the daytime. Funny thing is though, something I used to marvel at sometimes. If someone used like tiger nuts on there, they seem to be get the odd daytime bite. But if people was using like boilies, like most of us did, it was all like mornings or evenings. It seemed like the particle bait sort of
fishing over particles or fishing particles.
Fishing particles on the hook and it's strange one that really. But
we had a conversation with Darryl the other day actually. I won't give too much away because Darryl's coming on soon.
Right, okay.
But Darryl was saying that he can count on one hand the amount of fish he's caught on pop-ups at night, but he's caught loads on pop-ups during the day. Yeah. If you put a single tiger nut on at night as a bottom bait, it can change everything.
That's right.
It's just.
I think it's dead right. I mean, when you
maybe the sugar, or maybe I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what it is about tiger nuts. I think they're just Moorish, same as they are for human beings. And but
there's a lot of natural attraction there, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a lot of natural attraction. Funny enough, the first time I ever saw a tiger nut was, when I was young. I don't know if it was still about when you was young, but certainly in London, where you could buy tiger nuts in they were uncooked, in a packet like in a corner shops, like you buy a packet of peanuts, and
I was fishing with tiger nuts the other week actually, and I just end up eating 5 kilos of tiger nuts. They taste so good.
Well, it done you no good, though.
No.
And I think the first time I saw them was on the first year they had a syndicate in Savoy. I went as a guest as Bob Davis, and Peter Brock's up and allowed them to use a third rod at night after sort of 8 o'clock in the evening to 8 o'clock in the morning. And on his third rod, he said, I don't know if you've ever seen anyone using these. And he opened this packet of tiger nuts, you probably bought from the off licence, and put one of them on, Having said it didn't show me how he put it on because that was very early air rig days.
You were using hair rig and stuff from when did you start getting on that rig?
To be honest with you, I stumbled upon the air rig completely by accident because I was a bailiff on Darrenf. I was predominantly fishing the big lake at Darrenf. This was before I fished the tip lake. And there one year where I was fishing, that's when Kevin Maddox and Lenny Middleton were fishing Darrenf Big Lake, and I was doing really well on Darrenf. I had baits, hooks inside the bait and everything. And when you got a bite, you'd be able to run back 6 times to sort of hook the fish, and I was there, but I was catching really well on the strength of how I'd got my bait going. I think bait's so important, if you can get a bait going on. It was milk protein bait with the Dutch casein and all stuff like that in it, and it just got better and better as the season went on. And if you applied it properly, and I turned up there one day and Kevin Maddox was fishing a swim called the Willows, and I went in the swim next door. And I'd...
Just bring the mic up closer, Lee. Just a little bit closer to your mouth.
I'll bring myself to closer.
Yeah.
I think this chair keeps sliding along
Does
the
it?
floor.
Goes backwards?
Yeah, it does go backwards. And anyway, I turned up there, I fished the swim next door to Kevin, and I caught 4 fish, you know, and Kevin caught nothing, you know, and he went over to his car. I always used to drive a Dolomite Sprint, and he went over to his car at some point in the afternoon, and he come back to me, he said, I don't know if you know anyone using a bait like this over here, Lee, and he produced this bag of baits, and I picked one out. I said, well, just to be honest with you, Kevin, it just smells like curry powder. Yeah, and people use curry powder over a long while. I think what it actually was probably a maple flavour, because maple can smell a bit like curry. And but what struck me was these baits were like bullets. They was like stones. And I said to him, how the bloody hell did you strike a look through them? You know, and he didn't give me any reply on that. Well, that played on my brain, and I thought, how did he? And I thought, well, you know, by this time I'd used particle baits like chickpeas and things like that. It's before peanuts, and when I used to use a chickpea, I'd sort of side hook it. So the hook was part of the hook. I thought, yeah, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make some baits a little bit smaller than normal, and just side hook them like I do a chickpea. And so I did. I turned up at the next session. I turned up on Darren Big Lake, 2 rods. One rod I put on as normal, and the other rod I put on with a side hooked one of these tiny boilies, and hand rolled tiny boilies. And I was getting a few like indications on the rod where the bait was buried in the bait, and all of a sudden the other rod just screamed off. And the thing that impressed me most, I picked up the rod and it was hooked straight away. And so then I carried on using side hooking, and then shortly after that, you know, bolt would come into same sort of thing, but except you'd push the boilie up right by the eye of the hook, you know, and that was the sort of, you know, thing that everyone was using. And I mean, I wasn't fishing Darrington then very much at all, but the following year, I was still a bailiff on there, and there was a period where everyone's using bolt rigs, but they're all moaning about getting bite-offs, you know. I mean, a bite-off being when the carp has taken the bait and hook bait beyond their teeth in their throat and just, you know, get bitten off. And I always remember there's this swim at the end of the lake called the Bucket Swim on the big lake, and there were 2 guys fishing there in there, or no. Prior to them fishing in there, one of what used to be the Chad Valley Specimen Group, like Dick Caldwell and co. They'd been in there, put a load of particles baits in, and the carp hadn't fed on them. One of them's done the same on the Tuesday, another one caught nothing. One of them's gone in the same swim on the Wednesday, caught nothing. On the Thursday, these 2 guys are fishing in there, and the carp are by now gorging themselves on these particles. And I went round to see them, and they was almost in tears. They said, "Lee, we're getting a bite off about the one every 5 minutes." She said, "You stand here and watch." And Sim had a little bit of a funny bite, brought his rod in, hook link's gone, the end of the hook link's gone, you know. And I said to him, you know, what have you tried anything? You know, I suggested and they tried a few things to combat it and all that. But again, like with the hard boilie thing, this played on me mind, and I suddenly thought, I wonder if you tied your bait on to the bend of the hook, and so the bait can go past the teeth, but the hook can't, you know. I wonder if that would work. And the next day I went fishing at Lockwood Reservoir, one of Walthamstow complex, and I caught an 18 pounder, and I stuck my finger in its mouth to see how far back the teeth were, and from memory it was about 4 inches. So when I got home, I tied this using a bit of 6 pound seal cast, tied this bait on 6 inches away from the hook, and 4 inches away from the hook, and I showed it to a mate of mine, this Johnny Caldwell, Taxi John, and he laughed about it. I said, "Well, try it, John. It might work." So I told him the theory behind it. The bait could go back beyond the teeth, but the hook won't, you know. And he went fishing the next day on the big lake at Darrington, he rang me that evening. He caught 4. And I said to him, well, what was the bites like? He said screamers, and so I'd actually stumbled upon the hair rig.
So you kind of invented the hair rig for yourself?
Yeah, more or less, yeah. And then, I mean, I wasn't fishing. I was fishing Lockwood. I wasn't really fishing Darren for much then. And when I went back on there for the winter, I started using this same thing again, and was messing about with it a little bit, and didn't have much confidence in it. But obviously the reason John had lost, he started having trouble. He had 4 fish that first session. The next time he went, he started having trouble, where obviously I suppose the fish weren't feeding as avidly, and they biting off the hook link, or he wasn't hooking them in the first place.
Oh, right.
So he abandoned it, and but anyway, when I went on there that winter, I started messing about with it, but using things a little bit shorter. And there was one day when Lenny Middleton walked along just as I was casting out, and I cast out with his bait tied on from the bend of my hook, cast out, and when I looked round at Len, his face was really strange, and I looked at him, and he said to me, "What you've just cast out there, Lee," he said, "don't say anything to anyone about it." I said, "Okay,
wow."
Mate." I said, "Okay, mate." I didn't question him about it.
How long had Lenny been using that rig for beforehand?
Probably about a year, I would think. Yeah.
So you were onto it quite quickly for yourself.
And to be honest with you, he didn't go any further, say anything more about it. But I thought to myself, that must be something similar to what.
Sorry, this was obviously pre-Harrow, so this was...
before Harrow, yeah.
Right.
And he said this was, I think it's probably like late 70s, maybe 1980, something like that. And I think, obviously I thought this must be something like what they're using, but then later that year it came out, it wasn't at that time being published by Kevin Maddox or anyone, but I think on the other side of the Darrantip Lake, Big Lake, you've got the Long Lake, and there's a footpath in between. And I think a couple of the anglers or a couple of people, I won't name their names, had crawled along the undergrowth at the back of the by the Long Lake, but the other side of the footpath. Because when people used to fish in the on the Big Lake, that side of the lake, they used to hang their end tackle over the top of the footpath, and they waited until Kerry Maddox or Lenny Middleton was in that swim, and then laid there in the undergrowth waiting for their rig to come over the fence, and that's it. And the word spread from there, basically. But but no doubt about it. A massive innovation in carp fishing.
Huge innovation, and you saw a completely different use for it away from what Lenny did, but you still got to the same result. And,
that's right. Yeah.
So you got sort of mid 90s on Harrow. So you caught a lot of fish out there, Lee.
Yeah, I was quite successful on Harrow. Yeah.
And you were kind of flittering backwards and forwards from there as well.
Yeah,
but it wasn't always that busy, was it? Fishing up there?
No, it wasn't. I mean, night fishing on Harrow, because you couldn't night fish it at the time. It just put a lot of people off. I mean, you used to get quite a lot of people turn up, like local lads, turn up and do the evenings and things like that. But if you went up there for the day, a lot of times you had the lake pretty much to yourself.
Right. I mean, had the lake become a little bit more liberal towards allowing carp anglers on there, or was there still that bit of resistance?
It was very difficult to get membership.
They were allowing less people on there.
Oh yeah. I mean, after 1983, I caught that big one, the 40-pounder. It went from having no waiting list to a big waiting list the following year, and they was very, you had to live within a certain radius, I think, or you didn't get no chance of
it was very exclusive though, wasn't it? It kind of helped the guys that were already fishing there, I suppose, didn't it? To not allow anyone else on there.
No. I mean, if that what happened to me in 1983, that'd have happened to someone else in 1983, and I'd have tried to get in 1985, I wouldn't have got in.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. So I think there was another lure, wasn't there, around that time? Something was luring you away from Harrow a little bit. You heard about a lake.
Yeah, as I said, as I briefly mentioned it earlier, there was I'd always been sort of, if it was feasible for me to fish for the biggest carp in the country, I would, or certainly a massive carp, i.e. over 50 pound, and there was a lake in Ashford in Kent by the name of Conningbrook, which had been stocked by accident, as it happens. These fish were just found in a sort of a pen somewhere and dropped in that lake, you know, by a guy called Ken Crow, and they lived a charmed life, you know, because the lake, it was very, you know, a really new pit, but it was alive with natural food, and those carp in there grew to, you know, quite big sizes, some of them, without ever seeing an angler's bait, and it was under the control of the Faversham Club, Faversham Angling Club, but most of the Faversham anglers weren't interested, apart from Phil Lloyd and Paul Forward, my good mates, Paul Forward. And they was walking around it in the close season. Now, funny enough, the first fish they ever saw was had a two-tone complexion, you know, and Paul and Phil decided to start the season on there, and Phil caught it on the first day or first night, two-tone, and it was, I think it was just under 35 pounds, you know, and but that was only ever carp Phil ever caught from Conningbrook. Ever so difficult, you know. There was 17 carp, I think, in here at the time, and Paul went on to catch two-tone as well in that first year.
So that was a mid-30s, wasn't it? Around that sort of size?
Yeah. It was 35 when, just under 35 when Phil caught it, and 35 something when Paul caught it, and other than that, I mean, Paul continued to fish it and was quite successful.
We're in the 90s, so we're mid-90s then.
Yeah.
So how long do you think the fish have been in there for? And
probably around about 1990, I would think. You know.
So it was a fast grower.
Yeah. It just had so much natural food. I can remember Paul telling me, you know, when he was fishing, and I was fishing arrow at the time, so I weren't particularly interested in a lake that, you know, maybe had a big in it, you know, a 35 pounder, because where I was fishing there was quite a few that size. And I can remember when saying, you know, the obvious baits you use for carp that haven't been fished for before is either something like sweet corn or tiger nuts. And but Paul said because arrow had so much natural food, if you baited up with 3 tiger nuts, that was too many.
Really?
Because the carp would come in, eat one, and then go and eat a load of snails or something, you know. Well, anyway, that fish continued to grow. The following year, it came out as a Kent record.
It was a male as well, wasn't it, Lee?
Don't know. We don't know. We never ever saw it get involved in spawning, but at the same time, it did get fat on a couple of occasions, you know. So we really don't know. I can't remember what's the word for it. It's neither male or female. I think worms are like it, and they have a little. Oh, right,
okay.
Yeah, some.
Toby, do you know that?
I don't, I'm afraid.
No. Okay, we'll move on with that one.
Look it up on Google later. Yeah, and it gradually grew two-tone. I mean, the following year it went up to 49 pound and become a Kent record. But at the time it really caught my attention was, I mean, I'd fished it a couple of times by then, but to be honest with you, it was too hard. It was too difficult, you know. But when you set your sights on fishing lakes like that with really low stocks, you've got to have caught as many carp as you have ever wanted to catch, because it's so difficult, you know. You know, because of lack of carp, the amount of natural food and everything they've got on offer. So they get big without eating anglers baits from places like that. And but the time when it really got my attention was when I was doing a charity thing, which I used to do every year for the ACA up at Tyreham Hall in Yorkshire, and they delayed the start of it because of Princess Di's funeral. And I can remember standing in the car park and Terry Earns in his car, and Terry said, Jacko, he said, some bloke called Rod Killick has just caught two-tone at £50 4 ounces. I think it was £50 4 ounces. To which point I was punching here, because unbeknownst to Terry, Rod was one of my best friends and still is. And so that really fired me up for it. I thought, at last, I've got a predominantly short session angler. I've got a carp in Kent that's one of the biggest carp in the countries.
Was it getting fished that hard at that time?
It was never fished hard, because the difficulty to it. I mean, every year you used to have the new members and you know, they sort of all enthusiastic when they first get on there, like, you know, but you tell them how hard it was, without telling lies, you know, and they'd.
And yeah,
all your fears, then they come back the following week, maybe have a go, and then like the third week they develop hay fever or something, and
We've
never
seen
come
that,
yeah.
back
again. And that's what it's like. As I say, when you fish those lakes, it's no good. You might not see. There's superb anglers have fished it, and I mean, some people have been lucky and caught two-tone their target fish quick.
Yeah, definitely.
But
just describing the lake to the listeners as well. I mean, around that period, it was just an open gravel pit, and by the looks of it, the topography of the bottom of the lake was fairly uninteresting as well, wasn't it?
It was really, yeah. I mean, it wasn't. There wasn't. I mean, there was deeper areas and sort of not many shallower areas. Apart from like the first bit where you come down from the car park, I suppose one side of that was what you used to call the bay was quite shallow in comparison to the rest of the lake, and but yeah, it's quite uninteresting. There weren't no prominent gravel bars or things like that.
Which kind of creates problems in itself, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but there's just a massive weed in it, and it was a difficult place to fish, and plenty of places for 17 carp to hide. 17 carp,
and I remember as well, it was well known that they would show all the time as well, just to make it even worse.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean that was very. That was my downfall, because I'd always fish for show and fish. I'd be fishing for them, and I was quite successful by Conningbrook standards, but
didn't Terry Hearns say that he fish on there? It's like he was spinning for carp.
Yeah, that's right.
It was just crazy.
But it was. I came to believe that no longer did sort of two-tone hang around with that gang.
Right.
There'd be carp jumping out left, right, and centre. And bet your life two-tone weren't there,
You think two-tone was one of the easier ones in the lake to catch?
No.
Interesting. Why is that?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't probably the easiest one. I don't know. It's hard to say because they're easy for some people, but not easy.
But
for others,
the way it was caught as well, it tended to sort of get caught. Artificial, like it was predatory, because it would get caught on pop-ups a lot, wouldn't it?
It very rarely got seen in the edge,
right?
So it wasn't. I mean, we're in, especially in the summer, or more so in the summer months and all that. A lot of fish used to be, you see fish in the edge, and guys used to catch them in the edge. But very rarely did you ever see two-tone in the edge. When you was walking. I mean, some superb anglers used to be. They're very observant. People like Mark Toland, my mate Lee Watson, and. Few of the other guys, they fish for them. I mean, Lee Watson, a superb angler, weekend angler. He turned up here on a Friday, fished till Sunday, and at some point on Saturday, he'd already caught two-tone, but the fish he wanted to catch was the long common. And sometime on Saturday, he'd find the long common. He'd hunt it down and find it, and there was a number of times when he had his hook bait in his mouth and it got rid of it, and he never did catch it, And so there was fish that I think equally they was all as hard to catch. It was hard to catch a Conningbrook carp, full stop. Two-tone wasn't the easiest one, it wasn't the hardest one, and they all got for different people. I mean, the friendly mirror become the reason they got the name the friendly mirror. And the friendly common and the little friendly common was a little lake at the end of the lake, end of Conningbrook, called Little Conningbrook, and those fish were transferred from there into quite big, sort of upper 20s, into Big Conningbrook, the main Conningbrook. And when they first went in there, they was the fish that got mostly caught, but they soon wised up. But it shows you how it is for different people. I caught the friendly mirror 4 times, and where other good friends of mine never caught it, and but they caught. I mean, Ian Brown, the prime example, he gave me that corkscrew. Ian Brown, he caught two-tone 4 times, but I don't think he ever caught the friendly mirror, so.
Ian seemed to be reading his chapter in it was your book, wasn't it? Yeah. About the maggots and stuff like that. The casters, wasn't it? Yeah. You thought that Ian would really be onto something with that, but that didn't seem to. I mean,
it made a difference. Yeah, he caught two-tone on casters. And
how many times did he catch that on?
I think he possibly caught it twice.
Did he?
On the caster method, yeah. I mean, that was.
Was he in catching more fish generally, or on that method?
He caught more fish, yeah.
Right.
I mean, when you say more fish, it's.
I know it's hard to equate with time and
hard to equate because of the amount of fish in there as well.
Right.
I mean, Tom Banks, who you know very well, Tom Banks, superb angler, again a superb angler. He came on to Conningbrook. He caught one on his first session there, and then he caught one on his third session there, and we thought, he's a bit good, this bloke, Then he didn't catch carp for 18 months out there, so that shows you the difficulty of it. It doesn't matter how good you are, Conningbrook. When you used to catch a carp, when Ian Brown had the caster method going, he was, that caster method made it nearer for him to catch his next carp out there. If Ian Brown had caught that on a pop-up, and not the caster method, which was a method he developed and got it going, if he had caught it on a pop-up, he might not have caught one for another year.
Right.
It was such was that method what he developed, and that's what Conningbrook was like. We'd do okay in the springtime. I think springtime in the UK anyway is the easiest time to catch carp. We do all right in the springtime, and then might have another bite to the next spring.
So very difficult water, but the other thing that stands out about Conningbrook was the social scene on there as well. There seemed to be a lot of camaraderie.
Yeah, it was a massive social. I think that's brought about, but it was Savo was the same. I think more so in the early days than perhaps it is now. But when you got difficult fishing and you used to have these big socials and everything, and it was fun to go fishing. I got to stress at no time did any fish come to harm, because of the socials. I mean, Conningbrook wasn't a night water anyway, and so obviously for producing bites. And at no time ever did any fish come to any harm by our antics, our drinking and. But
it made things a little bit easier. Didn't you have these big barbecues? And was it Joe, the guy that lived in the house?
Yeah, that's right. There's a Maltese guy, lovely man, him and his wife. They used to let us use his house, great big house, and he used to use that for parties now and again. But Joe's Point, that's one of the best swims on the lake.
That was handy.
Yeah, that's right. And but Joe was, he was one of the Conningbrook family, he was a very nice man, and very friendly man, and he had 2 dogs as well. They used to come around the lake as well. They become part of the Conningbrook gang as well.
Yeah.
There was Bonzo, the little fat Jack Russell, who used to walk around with a sign around its neck, "Do not feed me." And there was Bruce. It was a cross between a Labrador and something else. And massive great dog, but that used to. I've seen some photos with that dog. When we used to have these socials, Bruce used to join in.
How regularly were these then?
Every time he went fishing, Not necessarily. I mean, that's not necessarily the case. I mean, perhaps, but there's always socials went on regularly every week, and very often, you should get the Indian delivered to the lake and everything, and all sitting around drinking wine, beer, and people smoking funny cigarettes and stuff like that, and Bruce used to plant himself in the middle of us, and be slobbering and all that, and if you give him a can of beer, a can of Foster's, he'd grab the top of it, walk away somewhere, crunch the can in its jaws, and just drink the can of Foster's.
He learned from watching Carp Anglers.
He was one of the lads, but when you used to watch him on the other bank as well, we used to raid people's bivvies. If someone leaves their swim, walks up a bit, Bruce would be straight in there like a shot. He'd coming out with hot crust buns in his mouth and all sorts, and contact lenses, mobile phones. He's eating a lot,
So it made the fishing a lot easier on there.
Yeah, it was good fun to go fishing, and at the end of the day, the fish didn't come to any harm, and it made for good fishing, an enjoyable session.
Right, okay. And how many fish? How long did it take you to start catching out of there?
I caught. When I seriously started fishing, I caught the first spring I was on there, but I used to. It was too difficult for me as well. I mean, I was obsessed with catching two-tone, but I used to have to go off and fish other places as well, just to get a bite. You know, just remember what it's like to catch a bite. But it's so I'd maybe catch half a dozen fish in the springtime, and then perhaps wouldn't catch anything all summer. You know, and it was particularly sort of difficult. But there was.
I mean, was two-tone for the first few years? Was that a real serious driving force?
Yeah.
From the moment you started fishing,
that was another thing that made Conningbrook a magical place for me. Not only was it it was the people who fished it, the camaraderie between the anglers, and the laughs we used to have, and people genuinely being pleased if someone caught a carp, rather than the jealousy aspect. It was a place itself, a beautiful lake, it grew into a beautiful lake, and but for me in carp fishing, the most exciting bit is, unless you get going to a place where it's real productive, is the bite. And when that bite, you pick up that rod, and it could be the biggest carp in the country.
Amazing.
It's an extra buzz, So that's what keeps you going.
Yeah. Actually, Lee, a question I was going to ask you about Conningbrook was, I mean, obviously everyone's fishing for potentially British record carp at the time.
That's right.
What sort of rivalry does that create on there? Did you ever feel any rivalry?
Not rivalry, a lot of disappointment, because if someone caught two-tone and you hadn't caught it, you was always very, very happy for them. But I got to admit, it was wish it was me. It wasn't jealousy, it was just, when's my turn going to come, And to be honest with you, that used to get to me after a while. I used to think, that's it. It's
it can make you completely paranoid, can't it?
Yeah.
Dreading that phone ringing when you're not there.
That's right. Yeah.
But you want to be happy for the person at the same time.
That's right. I mean, when Terry Earn caught it, I think I was on the lake when Terry caught it. Well, not when he caught the same session he caught it, because Terry was fishing a swim called Joe's Point, and I think I was fishing a swim which we called the Sedges, or I can't remember what that swim had. The first bit of the lake you come to, and I can remember having a little chat with Terry before, in the afternoon when I got there, and done the night and everything, and then the next morning when I woke up, it was really, really thick fog, and really damp and everything, and in them days, we used to be able to park behind Joe's house, so I had to walk past Terry's swim to pack up, and go work. And I can remember walking past Terry's bivvy and thinking, if he's got any sense, he'd be in there asleep, because I would have been likewise in them conditions. And went off to work. That was about, I think I left the lake about 7:30, 7:15 in the morning, and 9:30 I got a phone call from Terry, and that he'd caught it, and I would have come down and do the pictures and weigh it, and which I did. I was delighted to sort of, and I went down there, and he got it out. I got some great pictures of that. I did get. I think Terry publicised a couple of them, like him and Joe carrying the Maltese guy carrying
that picture.
Yeah, a fantastic picture. And when I weighed it, the scales. Terry held the scales up on one of these weigh hook things, weigh poles. And I was reading the scales, and I could read. It was something like, I think it was something like £50 4 ounces, or more than that, maybe I can't remember now. When Terry caught it, and I said, it's 49, and I see his face saying, all right then.
Was that his second 50, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, he's caught obviously Mary at a record weight, and that was his second 50, I think. But great occasion, But it was interesting in the fog, which leads on to my capture, really,
Yeah, it does. And, we'll get to your capture. I was going to say, so coming into your last season, Lee. So this was 2001 now.
Yeah.
You came up with a new method that you wanted to try on there. Why was that? What was the thought process?
I come up with a completely new plan before that season started, because I sort of analysed my fishing, and though I'd fished it for sort of 5, maybe 6 years, not all the time. I'd flitted off and fished other places as well. But effectively, I'd fished to try and catch two-tone for 5 or 6 years, 5 or 6 seasons, and failed, but been quite successful by Conningbrook standards, and in the amount of fish I'd caught. But I suddenly decided I was doing it all wrong. If I wanted to catch that fish, if you bear in mind what I said about how the fish show and everything, I was always fishing for the crowd and catching fish, and one here and there, and remember me saying about the two-tone. I came to the conclusion two-tone was never amongst that crowd of fish, and so before that year started, my year in Conningbrook started in March, and I made my mind up on 3 things. One, that there would only be 3 swims on that lake I would fish if I got the chance. In other words, the 3 swims, one of which was Joe's Point, the other one was the island, and the other one, to the lesser degree, was the area we used to call the Life Buoy. I would fish one of them 3 swims every time I went. Immaterial what, obviously if I walked alongside two-tone in the edge, which was very rare anyway, I'd maybe fish there, but by and large I'd fish one of those 3 swims. There were swims that I would never ever fish again. One I used to fish quite a bit. We used to use quite a lot of fish, but I never ever caught a carp from it. It was Mouldy Corner. The reason it got the name Mouldy Corner was because someone had thrown a load of tiger nuts in there and actually rotted on the lake bed. Nothing out of them at all.
Didn't like tigers in there very much.
Well, no, they probably did, but they didn't. They prefer snails.
Right, yeah.
So there were swims I would definitely fish as much as I could, and swims I would never fish, immaterial what I saw. In the springtime, the other thing I made my mind up on, in the springtime I would continue with my little yellow pop-ups, which I caught most of my fish on. I mean, actually they got sold by, and still are sold by a soda tackle by the name of Jacko Pops, because I'd been successful on them, and there's been 2 occasions where I'd give them away to people who never caught two-tone, and they both caught two-tone on it, which I was gay because there was more pop-ups.
And before you caught two-tone?
Before I caught it.
Oh, right, okay.
Before I caught it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a couple of people were having bait sort of, had problems with bait to use and things like that. So in the springtime, I'd use my little yellow pop-ups. And then, but when it was always very difficult, always sort of noticeable between the middle of June until about mid-September, it was very, very hard to get a bite on a boilie pop-up or whatever, very, very hard, So I made my mind up. I'd use the pop-ups, little yellow pop-ups in the spring that served me well in the past. But come summer, June, mid-June onwards, up until mid-September, I would use something else. But that something else, I didn't know what it was going to be, And sure enough, I fished the spring and everything. I caught 1 carp. Where I'd normally catch maybe 5, 6 carp in the springtime and the yellow pop-ups, I'd caught 1 carp. So I was, 1 17-pounder. Then come June, the middle of June, a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, Leroy Swan, came in the shop and at the tackle box where I work, and he said he was taking his son for his first ever fishing trip the next day, but instead of using ground bait, he was using liquidised bread. By liquidised bread, I mean bread that's sort of smashed up in a food processor, like into a crumb, and that took me back to when I was a kid, because when I was a little young kid living in Deptford. Pocket money wasn't very, very good, and so I couldn't afford. I could afford to buy some. Sometimes I used to produce my own maggots, but I could afford to buy some maggots, but I could never afford a bag of ground bait, or perhaps I could, but I'd rather spend it on cigarettes or something like that at the time. But what was very plentiful in them days was bread. So I used to use ground up bread, liquidised bread for bait, as ground bait, and it works better than any other ground bait you could buy, and it suddenly hit me. I thought, you know what, that method can be, because apart from carp and pike, Conningbrook had very little in the way of any nuisance fishing.
Sounds ideal, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it sounded ideal.
Sorry, Lee, why do you think liquidised bread is better than other ground baits?
I think carp love bread. I mean, I got a koi pond at home, and my fish in my pond like bread more than like anything else. I mean, there might be some, if you throw a load of Daphne in, stuff like that, or maybe some seafood like mussels and cockles, they like that, but bread they go mad on. They absolutely go mad on. And so anyway, I with that in mind, I thought, I rushed it. I thought that's got to work on Conningbrook, So with that, we had a co-op dairy next door to us at the tackle box at the time, and I went in the co-op dairy, bought a cheap loaf of sliced wholemeal bread. Sliced white bread. Rushed back in the shop, and what I'd done, using the Korda stockinette, like PVA, the whatever system they called it, I made up some PVA bags with the liquidised bread, like press it. That's before they had the plunger thing. I made my own sort of plunger, plunged it into the sticks, and I suppose the finished thing was about that sort of long, about 3-4 inches long. Dropped it into the sink, and when the PVA dissolved, and it just exploded, and immediately the entire sink filled up with bits of bread, and I thought it's just got to work. And,
so with a 4-inch stick, you're actually covering quite a big area, aren't you?
That's right, yeah. So
like an area the size of this table?
Size of this table, yeah, definitely. Right. One stick, just one stick, and I thought it's just got to work. So the next time I went fishing, I used that method. And one thing I found out straight away, though, because I used to leave the crust on the bread as well, when you actually throw the sticks in the water, the bread sticks in the water, they float. So, but then within a minute, they'd sink to the bottom. So what I used to do, I used to hook one on my hook, cast it in position, and then do the other rod, and then the other rod, then go back to the first rod until I'd got 4 sticks worth on each spot. And then the 5th cast, I would leave the stick on there. That's my fishing spot. And I tried it, and honestly, when you looked at it in the water, you throw this 4-inch breadstick in the middle of a load of weed, and or near some weed, and it just decorate the weed, and it was bread everywhere, and it was. That first trip I caught, was some scabby eel. There's a story about the eel as well, because I was...
Sorry, with the bread as well, you were adding anything to...
Well, no, I didn't know, not at that point.
Okay.
And to be honest, I was deliberating I didn't know really what to use as hook bait, because, I mean, my initial thought was maize, but then a week or two before, Tom Banks had the fish all over him in this Joe's Point swim, using maize, and he couldn't get a bite. So that sort of put me off it a little bit, And so the first time I fished it, and I was a little bit of a story about this eel. I was fishing an area we called I forget what we called it. It was up in sort of Pump Bay somewhere, and Paul Fuller was fishing on the island, and I was round socialising with Paul, not too far away from me rods in the evening, and I had a bite. So we went running round there, and in my head, it's the biggest carp in the country on the other end of it, and Paul's getting in front of me, I'm pulling him back, and I got to the rod, and I picked the rod up, and I reeled in this eel. Only eel I've ever seen in Conningbrook, or caught in Conningbrook, and I was so annoyed with it, I actually bit it.
Oh.
Yeah,
that tastes very nice, would it?
Yeah, well, it probably did, but and that was it. Anyway, when I returned from that trip, I sort of then developed the bread mixture a little bit, and into like I used to fish a 50-hour session. I used to go leave work a little bit early on a Wednesday, fish all night Wednesday, all day Thursday, and Thursday night, and then go back to work Friday morning. And so by then, for that session, I used to buy 2 loaves of just the cheap Kingsmill stuff, like the sliced bread, and 2 loaves of wholemeal and 1 loaf of white. And so that was a mix. I used to mix all that in a liquidizer, and to that I'd add a pint of casters, obviously all dried out so they didn't melt the PVA, a small tin of Jolly Green Giant corn, a few chili flakes, and I think that was about it. I mean, there was occasions like later than that where at some point, you could look at the bottom of the lake on Connie, but there was loads of little minute snails, and sometimes I used to collect some of them, dry them all out, and put them in the mix as well. And anyway, the second session I used it with this their new mixture, and I made my mind at that point. The obvious bait to use is a bit of, because I've got sweet corn in the mix as well, it was a bit of maize, single grain of maize. And so it's a simple air rig set up with a single grain of maize on it. And it worked. I mean, the first, what was really apparent, I mean, the feeding time was between, just before first light to about an hour into light, and that was it. Waste of time for the rest of the day. So, but I caught a fish on that next occasion. I caught a 24 pounder, and that's what transformed my fishing. I then had the confidence that I just got to keep on doing this, and it'll work. In the right swim, in one of those 3 swims, and this would work. And so it did. And then after that, I was catching most times I went. Most times I went. If I could get in one of those swims, there was times I'd get down there with someone would be in 2 swims I wanted. So I used to, we got 50 hours to get in that swim. And so I'd buy me time. There
was a time rule on there, wasn't there?
No, there was a 48-hour rule, but that aside, I never used to do really a 48-hour session anyway. I used to fish Sunday nights as well, so that was part of my. But very rarely could you get in one of those like Joe's Point, the island, or anything on a Sunday night, and. So if I got in one of those 3 swims, I was happy. So sometimes I'd get there to do Wednesday night, but I couldn't in the going swim on a Wednesday night, but I could maybe get it on it for Thursday night. But what I used to do all day, I used to bait up the swim, the spots in the daytime, but wouldn't fish. I'd have my hook baits in the butt rings, and spend all day messing about. I might have a little stalk around or something like that, But wouldn't do my next baiting up to just before dark.
Right.
And it'd be the same scenario. I'd bait up with 4 sticks, do one rod, then the next, and so on and so on. So I've got 4 sticks round each, and then on the 5th cast of each rod, I'd hook a stick on and cast it in position and leave it there. And every single time I got one of those, it was usually Joe's Point was the swim I was mainly getting the bites from. I got a bite, on Friday morning, early Friday morning, I got a bite, and suddenly my fishing head regarding Conningbrook changed into the mentality of was I going to catch? It was which one I was going to catch.
Wow.
I was that confident, and it just transformed my fishing.
Right.
That and the confidence, has been, it was oozing from me.
Right.
And
yeah.
Then what sort of put a little bit of a spanner in the works was a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, on a Sunday night. I was over in Linear Fisheries doing this junior fishing thing, and I got a phone call on the Monday morning from Brett White, and I still remember the conversation. I would normally fish Sunday nights, and I still remember the conversation. He said, I thought, oh, excuse my French, but I thought, oh, fuck. He'd just caught 2-tone out of Joe's Point on the very same spot. I mean, Brett had fished that spot a bit as well, And I've got to be honest with you, I just threw my phone at a tree and sat down and sobbed. I thought, what have I got to do to, I missed out. I mean, perhaps it wasn't meant to be anyway, that's all I can say. And then I was sort of running out of time with it, really. I caught a couple more fish, at Joe's Point. And then it was sort of approaching the end of August, and this was maybe Wednesday through to, no, sorry, it wasn't. I was just going to do the Wednesday night, and because I was going to France, to Le Quay in France on the Saturday, early Saturday morning, so I had to get all my gear ready on Friday, or Thursday. and I wasn't even going to go fishing, you know, and I virtually given up for that year, you know, because I had Le Quay for a week, and then back from Le Quay for a week, and then out to Reduta in Romania for the Carp Angling World Championships, and so, you know, I thought that's it, that's me done for another year on here, and.
So tell us what happened that.
Well, Wednesday, so I wasn't going to go fish. I mean, I was absolutely totally obsessed with this fish by this time. You know, my head, I mean, especially I was catching, you know, it was just a matter of time. And I mean, there wasn't a day where I'd at work or at home or anything where I weren't thinking about two-tone, you know, and or looking at a picture of it or something like that, you know, and yeah, and it's painful, you know. Painful. I was just, when's my time coming? And
I bet it's painful for the people close to you as well, wasn't it? That
possibly, yeah. I mean, my then wife, you know, she knew of my obsession, you know, and anyway, it was a Wednesday, and I thought I wasn't going to go fishing at all. I wasn't going to go at all, and you know, because of getting ready for France the next day, and I thought I might as well go down there for a night. And I went down there on the Wednesday early evening. By now, I fished on a swim called the Island. There was someone on Joe's Point, so I went on the Island. And baiting up now was like sort of on autopilot, really. You know, I'd do one rod and second rod, and then real sort of, I don't know. Yeah, my attitude was, you know, I didn't have no thoughts of two-tone or anything. Just go down and just want to get the rods out there, sit down, chill out a little bit, you know. And I always remember it. I accidentally picked up a rod that I'd already done. In other words, it already had been baited up with 4 sticks of bread sticks, and had the hook bait in place. And then instead of picking up the right-hand rod, I picked that rod up again. Mm-hmm. It's after I'd done the rod, whatever. I thought, oh shit, I've already done that rod. So I reeled it in. I got a single grain of maize on there, and I went, tossed it out there. Just single grain of maize, no stick, you know. And I mean, it was there or thereabouts where I, you know, but obviously the spread of the bread would be quite wide anyway.
And you were fishing tight on all 3 rods? Not
necessarily, no. Okay. No, it's three different spots, you know. Yeah. And it's a friend of mine, Pet Food Paul, come down to see me in the evening, and we had a bit of a laugh, and he'd been to Le Quay before, and we were chatting about Le Quay and everything, and then and that was it. At some point I drifted off to sleep, and I think it was around about 5 o'clock in the morning. I had a single beep on one rod, which caused me to wake up, and I just sat around on the bed chair, and honestly, it was the thickest fog I've ever fished in. You know, I couldn't see an hand in front of me, and normally you could hear because it's fairly close to the M20 motorway. You normally can hear the hum of the vehicles on the M20 in the distance, and the factories, a little bit of noise going. Like I said, night work in the factories, a little bit of work going on in the factories. You couldn't hear anything. You just nothing. It was actually quite eerie, and I sat there, you know, sort of, and I heard a fish crash out in the sort of vicinity of me, you know, where I was fishing, but I didn't know exactly where because you couldn't see the lake. You know, it was that thick, the fog, and but it didn't sound like a big fish. And then all of a sudden, the middle rod, you know, one that had the single grain of maize on it, it just roared off, and I was on it like a shot playing this fish. And I mean, honestly, the lake was really, really weedy at the time, so you couldn't give the fish an inch. Like at one stage, I thought it went round to my left, and I was just wouldn't give it any line at all. At one stage, it nearly pulled the rod out of my hand. And,
any idea at that point?
No, none whatsoever. I thought
no difference in the fight between you. Got a bit of a lump on the end there.
I think on reflection, there should have been, but there wasn't. If you know what I mean. Because the last thing I thought of it was two-tone, and I thought it was this one I'd heard jump out, which was one of the perhaps smaller commons or something like that, you know, and or even the long common, because the long common had a reputation for fighting hard, and and I got it in front of me, and I saw just see it turn over, and enough to know it was a mirror. Well, there was only 3 mirrors in Conningbrook at the time. Which one was two-tone, obviously, Tom's Pet or Scaly, which was fairly heavily scaled. Oh no, sorry, there was more than that. You had the friendly mirror as well. But for some reason, my head told me that's Tom's Pet, and. Anyway, I netted the fish, and there's quite a bit of weed went in the net as well, and I tried to sort of lift it ashore, and it was really heavy, and my head's convinced I got Tom's Pet in the landing net, and went back to me bed chair, got my head torch on, went down there and shone my head torch on it, cleared the weed from it, and I can remember thinking, I don't even know what Tom's Pet looks like, because I've never seen it on the bank, and then I had another, I cleared a bit of weed, I took the hook out, I think, unhooked it and looked at it again, and it suddenly dawned on me. And I can't explain the feeling. It was as if I floated up into the clouds, and, it was surreal, it was... And I've got to admit, I sacked up the fish, made it safe, and... made it safe, and then I sat back on my bed chair and just cried.
Did you?
Yeah, the emotions was sort of unbelievable, and then once I had a cup of tea, sorted myself out, and I thought. But
mixed emotions as well, aren't they?
Mixed emotions, yeah. It was and the thing is, I think by this time, I think most of the UK carp world knew of my obsession to catch that fish, because I wrote a diary piece in one of the monthly magazines. And funny enough, the day before, in the Angler's Mail, Colin Davison had wrote in his chapter, free carp anglers, he, bless him, he respects most or something or other, and one was Simon Scott, I can't remember the other one. The other one was me, bloody hell. And he's, in the little bit he wrote, the last statement was there'd be a queue as long as whatever the daily catches two-tone. So that morning, Colin Davison was the first one I rang, and he said, "I'll be down." He said, He said, "Is it weighed yet?" No, it hasn't been weighed yet. And then I rang me local mates like Ian Brown and Paul Forward. And they come down.
So what was the British record at that point?
The British record was Gary Bays. Actually,
and he hadn't had it claimed at that point, had it? He claimed it, but hadn't had it.
It was a big, I mean, Gary Bays, it was 60. Do you know? I can't even think. What, £62, 2 ounces, I think. So, do you know what?
What was yours? Yours was 61.7, wasn't it?
So £61, 2 ounces. Mine was 61.7 when I caught it. So Gary caught it. It was the first UK £60 plus carp.
Yeah, caught
the year before, and
so did you think then, right? This could be.
It didn't even enter my head, the weight, the record thing was irrelevant. That to me, that was just an added bonus, And I just wanted to catch that carp, And anyway, Ian Brown and Kevin Cummins was on there as well. There was 2 other anglers on the lake, but they was both asleep when I had the bite, obviously. But Kevin Cummins, Ian Brown, and Paul Forward weighed the fish and confirmed.
We got some weighing pictures on there too.
I have, yeah.
And confirmed. That was a stainless steel. I mean,
I was going to say there's a good bend in this weigh bar. We're looking at this now on the screen. Hopefully, Toe can bang that one up. Yeah. But yeah, that was a sturdy looking bar you had there.
Cool. This looks like it hasn't got a lot of give in it.
No.
There it is.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, you can see the way that's a solid stainless steel bar that is, and and on the scales,
permanently,
they both said it's £61, 12 ounces, which is what the scales initially showed, and.
So your scales were a little bit out, were they?
Yeah.
Are you at digitals as well?
Yeah, I use it. It's a real good, expensive set of digitals.
Do you know what? I don't know why we don't all use digitals. It takes a lot of, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a lot of guessing out of weights, doesn't it?
That's
sometimes?
Right. Yeah. Anyway, Paul. It was confirmed by those. They weighed it, and that was what it weighed. And so I was, absolutely ecstatic about it. I've caught two-tone, and it's a
Go on,
British record.
Let's see two-tone
Record weight, and then.
Where did the old Hawaiian
When Paul Forward turned up, I mean, obviously he was asleep in bed when I rang him, and his wife came down there, and I think they called in the Tesco's just up the road, and she bought this, Hawaiian sort of, I think what they call them now.
I can't.
This pink feathery thing that boa. They call it,
boa.
A pink feather boa, and so she proceeded to hang around my neck.
Without the boa.
And
but a pretty recognisable carp.
Yeah, that was it, and it was just unbelievable day. I mean, and to be honest with you, everyone made their way home and everything, and I was set with me, and my phone didn't stop.
Brilliant, isn't
ringing, and I was getting phone calls. It's still quite early in the morning by this time. One that sticks in my mind in particular is a friend of mine who used to fish with Arrow with, Steve Curtin, Secret Steve, his nickname was. A couple of years before that, he caught the British Barbel record out of the River Ouse, and he used to always say to me, "I can't wait till your name's under mine on the list." And what he meant on the British record list, like, obviously a B's before a C, and I rang him, and his wife used to work night work, and I rung up, and his wife answered the phone. And I said, "Is Steve there, Sarah?" She said, "No, he's in bed." I said, "Want me to wake him up?" I said, No, don't wake him up. I said, "When he wakes up, just say to him, Lee rang. His name is under yours."
That's amazing.
Yeah, and funny enough, there's another one that springs to mind as well. Gary Bays, when Gary Bays caught it at £61.2, he sent a text round, like just quite a few people, and it sort of read down, and at the bottom it read, "Smile, you've just been texted by a effing legend."
Did he?
Yeah.
That was nice of him as well, wasn't it? Because he must have wanted, because he was still waiting for that record of his to be to be officiated.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that day, the rest of that day,
who your friends are, don't you? And those.
Yeah. I mean, I got to I like to pack up and go. This was still only about 7:30 in the morning. I had to pack up and get home because I need to get my gear ready for France and everything. I thought the only way I'm going to get packed up is turn my phone off. So I turned my phone off, and got all packed up and everything, got in my van, got on the M20, and turned my phone back on. And all the time I was driving, I had to go to the tackle box first, which was about 45 miles away. And all the way along, my phone didn't stop ringing, receiving texts and everything. I mean, bear in mind, it was about 5:30 when I caught the fish in the morning. It's now 9 o'clock, and I've got to the tackle box. I've looked at my phone. I haven't answered any of these calls because of driving. It was before hands-free stuff was available. And I looked at my phone. It was 52 messages received, as well as all the phone calls as well. And I walked in the tackle box. There'd been an email from Australia.
Wow.
And something else from South Africa as well. So that's how, in them few hours, how far it spread, But claiming the record was a little bit... I was a little bit annoyed that Gary's record hadn't been accepted, And so the procedure for claiming the record is you have to sort of, first of all, you have to give your scales to someone. So immediately it was weighed by, Paul and Ian Brown, and that. My scales were given to Colin Davison. It was his responsibility to take it to weights and measures and get the scales checked. And it come back that they was weighing heavy, and the weight they settled on was 61 pounds 7 ounces. And I rang up the British Record Committee, and I got hold of spoke to this woman on the phone. She said, the first thing you have to do, she said, you have to send your a picture of it to Alvin Wheeler at the Natural History Museum, and I thought, to sort of confirm that it's a carp, identifies as a carp. And I thought, how ridiculous. I said, well, if he looks in the Anglers Times next week, he'll see it's a carp. She said, well, no, it's okay, it's your procedure.
Some sort of subspecies, maybe.
Your procedure. And then, so that was it. It got confirmed as a carp, as everyone knew it was a carp. And then when I got the claims form through, there's two bits on the claims form. There's two witness bits have to be signed. One is witness to weighing. Well, I had no problem with that. The weight was, it wasn't weighed by me. It was weighed by sort of Ian and Paul and whatever. So one of those signed that. But the other one was witness to capture. Now I could have lied, but I didn't want to. I couldn't. It's impossible for me to lie because there was 2 other anglers on the lake at the same time. Kevin Cummins and Terry Gleby Oscar, both of which incidentally had been record holders. So there was 3 of us, all record holders. Terry with 2-tone and Kevin with Mary before Terry Earn caught it, and so I thought, well, I can't lie because the only person who saw that carp going to land, it was me, and so on the strength of that, I had to go to a commissioner of oath, i.e. a solicitor, swear an affidavit on the Bible that the truth of this, the contents of this affidavit, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And then
they must have been laughing at you. It's a fish.
That's the first thing that, I must admit, the lady who done it, and then she presented me with a receipt because you had to pay £5 for swearing.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. So, but then but I was, and I think it was my actions that then hurried up the British Record Committee a little bit because I was in touch with various people, and what used to happen, bear in mind we're in the day and age of emails, so things can be settled quickly without even meeting up. They'd meet up for once a year, every 6 months, and discuss any record claims. One of them's got a dental appointment at 2:00 in the afternoon, so we'll abandon it. We'll leave it for another 6 months or whatever, And
that's all changed a bit now, has it?
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah, and I expressed my sort of, anger that Gary's bays hadn't been recognised as here I am putting a record claim in, and Gary Bays hadn't even been recognised, which it did get recognised, which was great. But so that was it, and I've done it. But I must admit, after that, I didn't know what to do. Yeah,
so you were at a bit of a loss after.
Yeah, I mean, it was everything about Conningbrook I loved.
What was it, about 12,000 hours fishing, wasn't it? You worked out your clock set. Where did I get that from?
I don't know. You must have got it from somewhere else. I don't know if it was 12,000 hours.
That might have been from the newspaper that was writing the article on the fish. They like to serialise things.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but it was a lot of fishing anyway, and
that's right.
It takes a. But you had, did you have any aspirations to fish anywhere else, or was it just always going to be 2-tone? I mean, did you have a backup plan if you did
really,
catch
no,
it?
I didn't. I mean, because it was, I was fishing it because it was the biggest known carp in the country.
Right.
That's
and but there were other issues that were kind of coming to light as well at the end of that, Lee. Do you just want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. The fact that I should be sitting here saying my name's Lee, I'm an alcoholic.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think I will mention that because I think it's important because when I started fishing Conningbrook, as far as I'm concerned, I was born an alcoholic, with someone with alcoholic tendencies, and but it never sort of reared its ugly head until later in life, and I think it was really, in the early days, the reason I didn't drink very much was because I valued my driving licence so much, and most of my fishing was daytime fishing, no night fishing, But when I started fishing Conningbrook and the social aspects and everything, I suddenly developed a liking for red wine, and my downfall is I drink everything fast, and. So I will drink a pint of red wine as quickly as I can drink a pint of beer, which is pretty fast, And so consequently, I found myself. It finished up with me drinking every night of the week, whether I was fishing or not fishing,
Were people saying anything to you at that point?
Not really, no, not really. And I wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary because, but the only person that said something to me, I won't mention his name, but it's someone it was a very, very good friend, and someone I really respected, a very famous angler as it happens. We was fishing in France, and this was in the winter time, and we was all gathered round a bonfire having a bit of a drink, a bit of a social and everything, and I was getting pissed on the red wine, and so was other people, and to some degree or other. And I turned around to this guy, and I said, "Don't you drink?" He said, "No." He said, "I haven't drunk." He said, I haven't drunk now for 15 years. I used to drink too much." And I thought, poor sod, you don't know what he's missing, and then he mentioned something about AA, like Alcoholics Anonymous. He said, "I'll go to AA." I said, "Oh, right, okay, fair enough, so what, And then he
was an intuitive person, wasn't he? Because he was obviously putting the message across.
He was passing the message, yeah. And then he said something like, he's been sober for 15 years, and he said something like, sort of effects, I go like 2 or 3 times a week. I said, "What, you still go?" He said, "Yeah." I thought, where for? And as you say, he was passing the message on then, and yeah, I mean, to me.
But do you think you were born an alcoholic, but you weren't, like you say, you were able to not have alcohol dominate your life until that period?
Yeah, I sort of go a little bit further on it, and that I mean, how it affected me. I was drinking. I was getting pissed every single night of the week, whether I was fishing, whether I was at home or anything, to some degree or other. As soon as I got home from work, I'd open a bottle of wine. It got worse and worse and worse. It weren't always quite as bad till it ended up as bad. At its worst, I was drinking 3 bottles of wine a night, and including at fishing, and it was affecting my fishing to the extent that I'd get to the lake and think, I ought to really fish over there, but no, I'll go over there because there's no one about over there. I can get as drunk as I like and everything, and it's an addiction at the end of the day.
Didn't you say once as well that you were on the lake and the lake was frozen?
Yeah, and I'd regularly wake up, and it sort of, I don't say this with. The reason I'm saying this now is because I see in the current scene of carp fishing, there's lots of people on lakes somewhere, as we speak, sitting there. They're a potential or an alcoholic or a drug addict or something like that, and they're and they don't know there's a way out. And
what defines an alcoholic to you, Lee?
Right, that's another thing. You've got to. For me, the reason I didn't think I was an alcoholic, because to me, an alcoholic was a man sitting on the park bench with his raincoat tied up with a bit of string, drinking his booze out of a brown paper bag, with a bottle wrapped in a brown paper bag. And I certainly wasn't an alcoholic because, I woke up in the morning and I didn't want to drink, so I didn't drink in the mornings. But by this time I was hiding bottles. Hiding bottles at various places throughout the house and the garden and everything, and sneaking them. I mean, my back of my van was like a emergency off licence, and I couldn't do without this. Alcoholism and addiction is like. But I was sick and tired of it. I was sick and tired of getting drunk every night fishing. I used to. Sometimes I'd wake up in the bushes somewhere. End up in the bushes somewhere. I'd wake up with a wet sleeping bag where I'd pissed a sleeping bag, and
despite all this, though, you're still not aware that you're actually an alcoholic. And do you think?
Well, I think what actually happened to me. I mean, for someone in the madness of alcoholism or drug addiction, everything, all I can say, it's like being in a cell, a locked cell, but the key's on the inside. If that makes any sense to you,
right.
Because you don't know. I didn't know how to stop drinking. I didn't want to get drunk every night of the week. Didn't want to. As you say, I've been fishing at Conningbrook in February in freezing cold conditions. The lakes froze over when I got there, and I've set up my bivvy and fished for the night with no rods out but all I've done is camp by the lake so I can drink. You know, in the end, I was going fishing. Yeah, initially when I got there to catch fish, but the reason for me going there in adverse conditions was because I could drink as much as I liked and all that. And it's an illness. It's a.
You think the majority of alcoholics are just not aware that they've got a problem?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got to.
So it's only when you actually
right before you've got to. There's three things. You've got to know you've got a problem. Before you've got to admit you've got a problem. Before you can seek a solution, you know, because without admitting you're realising you're an alcoholic, admitting you're an alcoholic, you're just in denial, you know. And I mean, a lot of people know they drink too much. They're sick and tired of drinking, like I was, but they don't know what to do about it because they can't stop it, you know. And with me, what really done it for me, I would get home from work and of an evening, just after 6 o'clock, and I'd have a glass of wine. Within an hour, I'd be pissed, you know, and I would think to myself, at the end of, you know, to some degree or other, I would go to bed, either pass out or I'd end up, you know, not quite as bad or whatever. But I was always sick and tired of it. You know, within an hour of getting in, I couldn't talk on the phone because I was slurring. I couldn't, you know, I'm not like Bambi on ice when I'm pissed. You know, my head works, but my legs don't. And I didn't want to be in that state anymore. But circumstances ended up that because I've got a daughter who's a recovering alcoholic. I mean, when I said at the start, my name's Lee, I'm an alcoholic. I'm a recovering alcoholic, not, you know, but I'm still termed as an alcoholic. Term myself as an alcoholic, given the chance. And I've got a daughter who's a recovering alcoholic as well, and she's just come out of a rehab. And I spoke to a fella that she knew in the rehab, and he advised me to go to AA, you know, and which I did. I looked on the internet, and there was a meeting the next day. This was a Sunday the 14th of April, 2013, and there was a meeting the next night in Dartford, and I went to that meeting for my daughter's purpose predominantly, you know. And I walked in that room, and you know what? There weren't anyone with a raincoat tied up with a bit of string, you know. There was people larking about, throwing biscuits at each other, and having a genuinely nice people, and. More to the point, the tables at this particular meeting set out in a big like oblong, and there's sayings on A4 sheets with sayings on each table, and the one I sat in front of, it said that it's the first drink that does damage. And to me, that made so much sense, because I'd get home from work, I'd just have one. Within an hour, I'm drunk, and I'll pack it up tomorrow. I would just have one, and so it made so much. So if I don't drink an alcoholic drink, one day at a time, I can't possibly get drunk, you know. But if I knowingly pick up a drink, then I will want another one. My body will want another one, you know. And a lot of the time, it's not actually a drinking problem; it's a thinking problem, you know, because your head wants to change the way you feel. You know, that's why some people, like a temperate drinker, will get home from work after an hard day at work, have their dinner and have a glass of wine, just to chill out, just to sort of quieten their head down, or you know, just to relax, basically. But for someone with alcoholic tendencies, they can't do that.
But alcoholism it's not necessarily about the quantity you drink, is it? It's about how regularly.
Yeah.
If you come home every evening, it's not just drinking 2 bottles of wine, is it? I mean, you could have a few glasses, but if you need to be doing that every night, regardless, you've got a problem, haven't you?
Yeah, you take a drink. For an alcoholic, you take a drink. The drink takes a drink, and the drink takes you. And the seriousness of it, it kills people. You know, as we're sitting here now, there's people in hospitals going to die of alcohol-related illnesses, you know, and and it's awful. You know, there's people beat up, they're in prison cells, and, police cells, and things like that because of they've drunk too much, and and there's people. And you say about not drinking. I mean, you don't have to drink every day to be an alcoholic, because a lot of people, they work all week. They work Monday to Friday, then finish work Friday. They go mad all weekend, binging all weekend.
And you said that kills the most people.
And the most common day for people to die is a Monday, where their bodies, they've put so much alcohol down their neck on Monday that their body sort of. Due to withdrawal symptoms, they'll have a seizure and die.
Wow.
So it's pretty serious stuff. But
it's very serious.
My friend said about still going to AA. That's important for me. I have to still go for myself, for my own well-being, and also for other people as well, because that's how it started back in 1935. One alcoholic talking to the other. They started AA all them years ago, and guess what? It's all free. All you have to do is put £1 in the hat or not, just to pay for the cups of tea and everything. It doesn't cost anything, but you got to want to go, and you got to want it. It's like any addiction. You've got to want to pack it up before you can do anything. Before you find a solution. And let's face it, if Alcoholics Anonymous, if there was something like that, I mean, there's Alcoholics Anonymous, NA, there's CA, and all sorts of other ones as well. But if that was for cancer sufferers, I mean, an alcoholic suffers with, or a drug addict suffers with an illness that can kill them. It kills people. If this was they was organisations or fellowships or whatever for someone with cancer, those rooms will be mobbed with people, so for this for me, I don't pick up a drink one day at a time. And when the downside, when people first go into somewhere like Alcoholics Anonymous, my second meeting, I heard the God word, and I thought, they're going to all be banging tambourines in a minute, and then my fourth meeting. Because I went to a meeting most evenings, because I took myself out of my danger zone. Most of my drinking was of an evening. So, but if I was going to an AA meeting, I couldn't be drinking, But at my fourth meeting, I was chatting to a guy outside, and I expressed my, about hearing the God word and all that, how it sounded like some sort of religious cult and everything. He said, no, he said, God's whatever you want it to be. He said, God's like ice cream. He comes in lots of different flavours, but it's all the same thing. He said, can it be a group of drunks? G-O-D. Great, good orderly direction. G-O-D. Great outdoors. G-O-D. It could be that tree, even if you want it to be, he said, but it's nothing religious about it, So if anyone thinks it's a religious cult, if they hear the word God, no, it's definitely not.
It's whatever your faith is.
Yeah, but there's lots of people out there that they
hopefully
I've helped someone with that, because there's a lot of people out there don't know there's a way
out.
Yeah.
So how's your life changed since recovering and going through all these meetings?
Yes. I mean, it's all run on like a 12-step program, which is a program for better living, really. I sort of perhaps don't sort of, I accept people. Some people I don't like, but I have to accept they're like that, And sort of if I get into a conflict with someone conversationally, I perhaps won't argue back, because it's normally the second person that starts the argument. It's just generally a better way of...
Have people ever... Sorry. If people ever said to you, we could see you had a problem, but we didn't want to say anything to you?
Not really, no.
So it was...
it was only that one person. He saw me as a potential alcoholic, so he thought,
So there's a lot of covert alcoholics out there, aren't there?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, people don't realise. You've got to realise you're an alcoholic, or a bit like me, sick and tired of getting drunk every night and not knowing what to do about it, because it's impossible. Right. You need it's a support network. We all sit in them rooms. We're all exactly the same. People from all different walks of life, all different religions or whatever, or ethnic whatever.
Right. So you're going through these 12, this 12 steps. You still follow this.
It's just designed for living, yeah.
Right.
Well, you try and follow it, but you can't follow it. It's
Right.
impossible. No one works a perfect program, but it's
And is there ever a temptation to drink now?
no.
Really?
No, but if I'd missed meetings for a while, my behaviour can change. My head can sort of be not quite as good a place, because you wake up in the morning and you feel as, if you wake up with a negative head in the morning, you have a negative day. If you wake up with an happy head, I strive for every day of my life for my head to be as peaceful as possible, and I'm okay with as much love and laughter along the way,
Right.
and it's great, and another thing I've found out is that you don't have to have a drink to enjoy yourself. Because I've had belly laughs in drunk.
We've seen that recently.
Mixing with other alcoholics as well. We are just belly laughing, and then I see the stupidness of the alcoholism. How it changes people, how they behave differently, and not always for the good.
Do you find AA has an effect of it, but people aren't necessarily expecting that when they go to their first AA meetings?
Probably not, no.
And having that sense of community with like-minded
they're always
people.
made very welcome. I mean, likewise, you get people go away and relapse, but AA doesn't shoot its wounded, so if they come back, and you can get sick and tired of the same person going out and having a drink again and it's always you never hear someone come back in the room and say, "Oh, I was on the piss again the other night. It went half good."
Never hear it.
All broken, and it comes back with vengeance. Worse, though.
Does it?
Yeah.
By
the grace of God, I've not picked up a drink since reading that bit of paper.
Yeah.
And that's over 6.5 years, or nearly 6.5 years ago.
Well, congratulations, Lee. I know that there are probably people listening on the bank or whatever now. So, have you got any words of advice for anybody that's listening to this?
Just there's a way out. If you want it, if you.
But you've really got to want that.
If you think you've got a drinking problem, then you probably have. If you think you've got a drug problem, then you probably have.
Well, that crosses over as well, doesn't it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, same sort of thing. And then if you're prepared to do something about it, there's help. And it's free. And it's free, that help. But the hardest thing is people carry on in denial, and but the outcome is it does. Physically I feel better. I mean, when I was drinking, my blood pressure was high. My cholesterol was higher than it is now, and it's just my well-being. I don't know. I mean, I'm 62 years old now. I don't even know because it progressively gets worse. I don't even know if I would still be alive if it hadn't been for Alcoholics Anonymous, finding Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right.
Or Alcoholics finding me, And,
Brilliant. So for people that are listening, first of all, accept that you've got a problem. Yeah. And then it's going to be difficult initially to take that first step. But once you do that,
it's never gonna be easy. It's not,
Imagine how much nicer your world can be if.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's great. I love being sober. I'm sort of addicted to be sober, but I can still look at her.
It's a bit healthier, isn't it?
In a nice sunny day, like your warm sunny day, you can drive past a pub and they're all sitting out there drinking their pints of lager with all the condensation running down the outside. That can still look nice. But then I think, lime and soda is better than that,
Yeah.
And but it's always there. The temptation is always there.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing really annoys me, and I'll just finish this bit about this. I can get real resentment as well. I'm a smoker. I'm addicted to smoking, but I can't find the power or the will to pack up smoking. But when I go in the petrol station, if I want to buy some cigarettes, I can't see the cigarettes because they're all behind a locked cupboard, But I can buy. They can unlock that cupboard and sell me 20 cigarettes, and I can sit on that forecourt, smoke 20 of them cigarettes and not affect anyone. Alongside there's vodka and wine, everything in full open glare in it. I could buy a bottle of vodka, drink it on the forecourt, then drive my car and kill someone or kill myself. and it just all seems mucked up. I'm sure years ago they wouldn't have allowed things like that to happen, you know. And but no, it's
interesting.
I love being alcohol free. One day at a time, though, and I must stress that, one day at a time. The time's now, you know, and for this moment, I feel okay.
Well done. Okay. Well, I think that's a really nice way to wrap up the podcast, don't you? It's been a great chat, hasn't it? I do think you're a great inspiration to people, and
thank you very much.
You know, there's going to be people listening to this that you know, hopefully can address this. And
I'd love to come back again as well, because there's so much we haven't covered as well. You know,
this goes so fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does go fast. Yeah.
No, we definitely can.
Yeah.
I can think of more subjects. So. So Lee, and to those guys out there that are listening, guys and girls, you know, like I say, get some help if you think you need it. Okay. But for now, Lee Jackson, thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Simon.
Thanks,
you.
Mate.
Cheers. Bye.
The Thinking Tackle Podcast.